Chapter 36. Brother Yin, why are you here? Didn't I say that you don't have to pick me up? Ning Xuelua ran towards the man happily. I'm worried. It's raining outside. Su Yin took off his jacket and put it on her. Why are you wearing so little? Ning Xuelua looked sweet. Seriously, I'm already an adult, yet you still treat me like a child. Ning Shi leaned against the cold wall, feeling like she had just been fucked. She had been watching Ning Xuelua show off their affection for each other that night. She had been showing off and snatching things from her. Ning Xuelua purposely held Su Yan's arm and walked in front of her. She said enthusiastically, "Little junior sister, I think you're drunk. Why don't you come with us? I'll get my boyfriend to give you a lift." Ning Xuelua emphasized the word boyfriend. Only then did Su Yin realize that Ning Shi was behind him. The moment he saw the girl, his pupils shrank. Ning Shi, it had been a long time since they last met. They had not seen each other even once when she was overseas. After returning to the country, he had only seen her a few times from afar when he went to the company to pick up Xuelua. He almost couldn't recognize her when he saw her at such a close distance. The little girl with braids and a flowery dress had grown into a woman who could make all men fall for her. Ning Xuelua's eyes flashed when she saw Su Yin looking at Ning Shi in a daze. She pulled his arm and shook it. "Brother Yin, what do you think?" Su Yin suddenly sobered up and nodded. "Okay, let's go together." "Junior sister Ning. Junior sister Ning? Are you okay?" Ning Xuelua looked concerned. Ning Shi rubbed her forehead with the back of her hand. Under the influence of alcohol, her mind was getting muddled. Her heart was beating faster and faster, and her blood seemed to be flowing in reverse. There seemed to be a beast in her body, roaring and wanting to get out, wanting to tear the two hypocritical faces in front of her into pieces. No need. Before she completely lost control, Ning Shi staggered toward the direction of the bathroom. Looking at Ning Shi fleeing in panic, Ning Xuelua finally gave a carefree smile, but when she turned to Su Yin, she immediately put on a very sad expression. "Brother Yin, it seems that Xiaoxi is still unwilling to forgive me. I've tried very hard to make it up to her and have been doing my best to take care of her in the company, but she's still like this. I really don't know what to do. Don't mind her. That's just how Xiaoxi is. She'll forgive you after a while." Su Yin comforted her softly. Downstairs of the hotel, a group of young girls from the crew were excitedly studying the luxury car that Su Yin had driven over. "I just did a search. This Maserati costs at least 10 million. It's too extravagant. I also want to find a rich boyfriend. How many years would I have to struggle less? The most important thing is that he's handsome. There are many celebrities who have climbed up the social ladder, but all of them are Mediterranean men with big bellies. Just looking at them makes me sick." While they were gossiping, Su Yin and Ning Xuelua walked out of the hotel together. The handsome man and the pretty woman stood side by side, and it was very pleasing to the eye. Everyone watched enviously as Ning Xue, with Su Yan's coat on her shoulder, fell into the luxury car. They were still reminiscing and sighing even when the car was out of sight. Not long after the car left, suddenly, a sweet sound of an engine came galloping over, accompanied by a silver-white shadow of a car. A sports car at such a high speed steadily stopped at the entrance of the hotel. Most importantly, this car was so fucking cool. The handsome low chassis model, the smooth body, the cool scissor door, and the texture was like a work of art. Most importantly, the price. Oh my god, Bugatti Veyron Supersport, the most expensive supercar in the world. A conservative estimate is more than 100 million. Oh my god, which god of wealth is this? Chapter 37. In the car, Xiaobao stared at his phone, which did not respond, with a bitter look on his face. Lu Tingxiao unbuckled his seatbelt. "I'll go in and take a look. Wait for me here." Xiaobao immediately grabbed the corner of his father's clothes, indicating that he wanted to go with them. Lu Tingxiao looked at his son. "What if she gets drunk? Should I hug you or her?" Little Bun puffed out his cheeks, expressing his dissatisfaction. He didn't need anyone to hug him. Lu Tingxiao's face darkened slightly. "Unfortunately, I don't trust you after what happened last time. I can't believe you can take care of yourself. If you lose it again, Even I won't be able to bear the consequences. Understand? Little Baozi drooped his head, his face full of loneliness. Realizing that his words were too harsh, Lu Tingxiao rubbed his son's head. I'll be back soon. Old Zhang, drive the car to the underground garage. Yes, young master. Under the excited gazes of the onlookers at the entrance of the hotel, the car door slowly opened and a man got out of the car. Dressed in an iron-gray suit, he stood tall and had a powerful aura. Ah, it's Lu. Lu Tingxiao. Just now, he was still wondering which god of fortune this was. He didn't expect it to really be the god of fortune. Other than the god of fortune, who else could afford such a luxurious car? Compared to Master Xiao, the Su family is nothing. Oh my god, give me a hand. I'm so excited that I'm about to faint. I've only seen it once in a magazine. I didn't expect to see it in person here. I really want to go up and get an autograph. Sign on my underwear. Those little fresh meats and Best Actor awards can only kneel in front of Master Xiao. If Master Xiao enters the entertainment industry, they won't have a chance. In your dreams. It's already a lifetime's worth of good luck to be able to see the real person at such a close distance. You still want him to enter the entertainment industry and let you see him every day? Even after they had entered the hotel, the people at the entrance still refused to leave and were still enthusiastically gossiping. When has Boss Lu ever appeared without an entourage? Why did he come to the hotel alone so late at night? Who knows? Anyway, it's impossible that he's looking for a woman. What a pity. Such an outstanding man is not interested in women. Why do you think Lu Tingxiao doesn't get close to women? I like men. Those are all nonsense. How can a man who likes a man have a son? I think Master Xiao must be an infatuated person. He's deeply in love with the child's mother, so he's been keeping his chastity for her all these years. When Lu Tingxiao went upstairs, he found that all the crew members had left. The people at the entrance of the hotel should be the last group of people, but Ning Shi was nowhere to be seen. He called Ning Shi again as he walked along the corridor to look for her. There was still no answer on the other end. When he passed by the bathroom, Lu Tingxiao suddenly stopped. There seemed to be a phone ringing coming from the direction of the bathroom. He stood still and listened for a while. He realized that it was coming from the direction of the women's toilet. Lu Tingxiao hung up the phone, and the sounds in the women's toilet also stopped. Lu Tingxiao heaved a sigh of relief when he finally found the person. Then, he frowned slightly. He couldn't enter the ladies' room to look for her. She didn't even respond when her phone was ringing. It seemed like she was really drunk. Ning Shi? Lu Tingxiao tried calling out, but as expected, there was no response at all. Lu Tingxiao stood in front of the sink between the men's and women's toilets. He raised his slender fingers and pinched the space between his eyebrows. The expression on his face was as if he was working on a major cooperation case that involved more than 1,000,000,000 yuan. A few seconds later, he walked toward the women's toilet with his slender legs. Chapter 38. Fortunately, CEO Lu was lucky. It was too late, and there was no one else in the ladies' room. He immediately saw Ning Shi leaning against a door, drunk and paralyzed. Her high heels were kicked here and there, and the things in her bag were thrown all over the floor. Her hair was messy and covered her face. She was a completely different person from the glamorous girl she had left. Lu Tingxiao's eyes flashed with a trace of pity. He walked over to pick up her bag and put all the scattered things in it. Then he picked up her shoes and put his arm under her waist and knees. Just as he was about to carry her up, Ning Shi suddenly grabbed the door handle by the side and refused to let go. She propped up her drunken eyes and stared at the person with extreme vigilance. Who are you? Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao. Ning Shi looked dazed and then suddenly became furious. You liar. Do you think I'm an idiot? This is the ladies' room. Was this girl really drunk or just pretending to be drunk? She was quite smart. I'm not lying. Liar. I'm not leaving. I'm not going with you. Drunk. Ning Shi was like a frightened little hedgehog, full of vigilance. Ning Shi refused to leave. Lu Tingxiao could only put down the things in his hands and coax her. What do I have to do to make you believe me? Give me your ID card. Ning Shi looked like a police officer checking for drunk drivers. The corner of Lu Tingxiao's mouth twitched. He obediently took out his wallet and handed her his ID card. Ningxi held the small card shakily. Her eyes were almost glued to it. Then she said word by word, Lu Ting Xiao. You are Lu Ting Xiao. Lu Ting Xiao nodded with satisfaction. Can we go now? No, I'm not going with you. You're the devil. I'm not going, not going, not going. Ningxi suddenly became more excited. Devil. Lu Tingxiao's face darkened. So this was how she thought of him? He thought he was gentle enough to her. They were in a deadlock when suddenly there was a sound of footsteps at the door. Ningxi, Ningxi, are you inside? Lu Tingxiao's back stiffened. If someone saw him in the women's restroom, he wouldn't be able to stay in Beijing anymore. The footsteps of the person were getting closer and closer. Lu Tingxiao could see the corner of the person's clothes. He cursed in a low voice, quickly picked up Ningxi's bag and shoes, and dragged her to the back of the door. It was the scriptwriter, Yiling Long. Ningxi was a newcomer and didn't know anyone in the crew. Only Yiling Long noticed that she hadn't come out after entering the bathroom, so she came back to look for her. In the compartment, Ningxi, who was suddenly pulled in, was frightened and struggled hard in the man's arms. Yiling Long, who was outside, naturally heard the movement inside. Ningxi, is that you? Lu Tingxiao's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot as he listened to the sound outside getting closer and closer. Just at this moment, the hand he used to cover Ningxi's mouth was suddenly bitten by the little girl. The pain made him frown. Lu Tingxiao's brows showed signs of crumbling. When had he ever been in such a sorry state? After taking a deep breath, Lu Tingxiao slowly said in a suppressed and hoarse voice, Don't worry. I'll give it to you. Yiling Long was about to knock on the door when a man's voice came from inside the compartment. She froze for a moment and suddenly understood something. She blushed and hurried out. She didn't expect to run into someone who was working here. This was a hotel. Why didn't they go to the room to work? She really couldn't understand some people's hobbies. There was no one in the women's restroom. Where on earth had Ningxi gone? Yiling Long didn't expect that the heroine in the work was Ningxi, the one she was looking for. Hearing the footsteps outside the door getting farther and farther away, Lu Tingxiao breathed a sigh of relief. He sat on the toilet lid, loosened his tie, pressed the noisy little woman on his lap, and scolded her coldly, Don't make trouble. Otherwise, he wouldn't mind making it real. The man's tone was so scary that Ningxi was startled and then began to hiccup. Her little face was full of grievance. Having just scared her, Lu Tingxiao could only pat her on the back helplessly and coax her. Sorry, I shouldn't have been fierce to you. However, the person in his arms was even sadder, and her big eyes fell from her eye sockets. Lu Tingxiao was at a loss. Why was this girl more difficult to coax than Xiaobao? Chapter 39. Damn it! Who do they think they are? Ningxi suddenly waved her fist. If not for Lu Tingxiao's quick reflexes, his jaw would have been dislocated. Girls shouldn't swear. Lu Tingxiao frowned. Although she was very cute when she said it. Ningxi was very drunk, but she could sense that the person who was hugging her didn't mean any harm and was very gentle, so she gradually relaxed. She sat on the man's lap and leaned against his chest, not struggling anymore. She said drunkenly, I just don't want to. How about I go find a big thigh to hug? Do you think you can hold me down? I'll go find one right now. Right now? Lu Tingxiao raised his eyebrows. He gently grabbed the woman's hand and placed it on his lap. The thickest thigh in the capital is right here. Where else do you want to find one? Ningxi carelessly touched that muscular thigh and then flew into a rage. Not thick. Not thick at all. Lu Tingxiao, she actually said it wasn't thick enough. This was undoubtedly unacceptable to every man. What was worse was that her hand was moving around on his leg and touching places she shouldn't have touched. She even slapped there. Ugh, what is this? Annoying. You're scaring me. She sounded very disdainful. Lu Tingxiao's face turned green. If he allowed her to continue tormenting him like this, he might do something against his principles. The person outside should have gone far. So Lu Tingxiao quickly opened the door and walked out with Ningxi in his arms. They arrived at the underground garage. It was Lu Jingli who ran out to open the door for him. Why are you here? Lu Tingxiao frowned. I went to your place to look for you, but you and Xiao Bao weren't there, so I came here to look for you. Brother, you're so unloyal. When did you buy this car? It's even cooler than the one you gave me. I didn't even know it. Lu Jingli looked aggrieved. Lu Tingxiao ignored him and carried Ning Shi into the back seat. Lu Jingli stuck his head out from the front passenger seat and stared at Lu Tingxiao and Ning Shi's disheveled clothes. Where did you pick her up? Why were you gone for so long? Look, our Xiaobao is about to become a husband-gazing stone. Xiaobao's little face, which was originally pressed against the window glass, immediately stuck to Ning Shi when he saw her. Lu Tingxiao was worried that Ning Shi would go crazy because of the alcohol. He didn't expect that when Xiaobao approached, she didn't react violently. Instead, she held the little fellow in her arms and hugged him comfortably like a pillow. Of course, Lu Tingxiao would not satisfy her curiosity. He slowly took off his tie and his sweaty coat. What happened today? At the mention of intelligence gathering, which he was good at, Lu Jingli immediately said excitedly, according to my information, everything went smoothly. You even called Arthur over. Little Cece naturally succeeded in stunning everyone. The media's evaluation of her is very good. Who did she meet tonight? Lu Tingxiao asked again. Lu Jingli recalled. Other than the crew members and Ning Yaohua, there's only. Lu Jingli glanced at his brother's expression and thought about how to phrase it before saying, Su Yan. I guess she was so drunk because she felt bad when she saw that her old lover had become the man of her nemesis, Ning Shuelua. Although Lu Jingli had carefully chosen his words, Lu Tingxiao's face still darkened in an instant. It was really scary. Chapter 40. Ahem. But it's no wonder. When Ningxi was abroad, she only fooled around with those people. After that, she dumped them. She was very carefree. Su Yin should be the only man she has ever truly loved. It would have been better if he hadn't explained. But now that he did, Lu Tingxiao's face turned even uglier. Lu Jingli was speechless. The two of you haven't even started dating yet. What right do you have to put on an expression as if you want to slaughter the entire city? Brother, even if you want to fall in love with her, you should at least poach Ning Shi to Golden Era. Otherwise, it'll be very inconvenient for her to stay with Starlight. As far as I know, she's being suppressed by Ning Shuelua. Lu Jingli mumbled. Lu Tingxiao looked at the girl who had become extremely quiet after hugging Xiao Bao. It's not the right time yet. They had finally brought her back to the villa, but another problem occurred after they got out of the car. When Ning Shi saw the silver-white supercar parked next to her, her eyes suddenly burst with the light of a hungry wolf, and then she lay on the car and refused to leave. Her expression was like that of a little girl who saw her dream lover. Ow! Xiao Bai, my little baby. Lu Tingxiao's expressionless face changed from red to orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. He had disregarded his reputation and went to the lady's room to fetch her back. She did not even look at him kindly and even called him a devil. Now, she was hugging a car and calling him little baby? Ha ha ha. Brother, you're not jealous of a car, are you? Who told you to drive this car for no reason? When Xiao Cece was abroad, she was a professional racer. She especially likes sports cars, so naturally, she can't resist the world's #1 supercar. Lu Jingli gloated at the side. Then, he realized that there was someone more jealous than Lu Tingxiao. That person was Xiao Bao. The little girl was on the verge of tears when she saw that her unique title of baby was given to a car. However, the culprit, Ning Shi, was still touching the car with an infatuated look. Baby, you're so handsome, so charming. I want to marry you. Lu Tingxiao's knuckles creaked as he clenched his fists. He had the urge to curse. When he proposed to her, she felt as if she had met a monster. Now, she was actually proposing to a car? Lu Tingxiao rolled up the sleeves of his shirt. Old Zhang, get me a hammer. Lu Jingli was laughing so hard that he couldn't catch his breath. When he heard that, he panicked. Don't, brother, calm down. This car is worth almost 200 million. It's fine if you don't want to give it to me. I'll bring it away now. I promise I won't let it be an eyesore in front of you. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Jingli felt like the world was spinning around him. He was actually thrown over the shoulder by the seemingly delicate Ning Shi. Who dares to touch my little white? Ning Shi's beautiful little face had an expression of killing gods and Buddhas. Lu Jingli held onto his waist. Hero, please spare my life. I was wrong. This girl seemed to have practiced judo for a few years. Being thrown by her was like losing half a life. After Ning Shi threw the man, she immediately got into the driver's seat and hugged the steering wheel tightly. Xiaobai, be good. Don't be afraid. Young master, this. Old Zhang, who was pushed away, was dumbfounded. Lu Tingxiao waved his hand and signaled for the driver to leave. Then he looked at his son. Little Bao, it's late. Go back to sleep first. Little Bao, who was immersed in his fall from grace, immediately shook his head like a rattled drum. Lu Tingxiao wasn't angry. He only said lightly, you should know that girls don't like to show their terrible side to the person they care about the most. Oh, the person they care about the most. Little Bao pondered for a few seconds, then turned around and left obediently. Lu Jingli's eyes widened. Brother, you're too shameless. You even lied to a child. Do you have anything else? I have something else. I want you to feel the heat of my big light bulb. Then he felt the bone-chilling coldness of his brother. All right, I'm leaving. I'm leaving too. Lu Jingli looked back ambiguously before he left. This man and woman in a sports car. Could something have happened between them? TSK. The record-breaking 63x telephoto camera he had just bought could finally be put to use. Chapter 41. What? What do you want to do? Seeing Lu Tingxiao suddenly sitting in the front passenger seat, Ning Shi hugged the steering wheel with a protective expression. Lu Tingxiao leaned against the back of the seat, his eyes darkening. What did he want to do? She had better not know. At this moment, Lu Tingxiao's upper body was only left with a white shirt. He was fuming as he roughly tore open the button that was too tight at his collar. Then the second button, the third button. Ning Shi had been watching the man beside her warily. Seeing the man unbuttoning his shirt one by one, gradually revealing his muscular chest, she was so dazed that she even forgot about her beloved Xiao Bai. Lu Tingxiao didn't notice the look in her eyes. He forced himself to restrain the ridiculous feeling of being jealous of a car tonight. He took out a cigarette, lit it, took a deep drag, and exhaled a long puff of smoke. The moment Lu Tingxiao took out the cigarette, Ning Shi couldn't hold it in anymore. She stared at him without blinking. She stared at his moving Adam's apple, at the white cigarette between his thin lips, and at the slowly rising smoke. The gaze from the side was too intense. Lu Tingxiao finally turned his head and saw Ning Shi's thirsty expression. Lu Tingxiao was dazed and was almost fooled by her gaze. Then he noticed that he wasn't in her eyes at all. What made her thirsty wasn't him, but the cigarette between his lips. Lu Jingli wasn't good at other things, but his ability to collect information was top-notch. In the background of Ning Shi that he sent over, everything from her background to her hobbies was detailed, including small details such as her quitting smoking recently. Lu Tingxiao immediately understood that her smoking addiction was acting up. Not as good as an old lover, not as good as a car, not as good as a cigarette now. Lu Tingxiao had never felt so defeated and self-doubted in his life. The first time he saw her, he wanted to take her for himself, but he was worried about her feelings and carefully considered every step. But she had never seen him in her eyes and had always drawn a clear line between them. She would rather think of hugging someone else's thigh than be his wife. Some people said that not being able to forget an old lover meant that the new lover wasn't good enough. Was he not good enough? She actually got drunk for the old lover who had abandoned her? He clearly knew that the best way to treat her was to take things step by step, and he had been patiently abiding by this principle. However, he did not expect that his rationality would be so fragile that even a small flame could be destroyed. Lu Tingxiao held the cigarette between his fingers, his eyes reflecting the red of the cigarette butt. His deep voice echoed in the carriage. Do you want to smoke? Ning Shi nodded without hesitation. She couldn't tell if she was attracted by the smoke or the man in front of her. Lu Tingxiao flicked the cigarette ash and took another puff under Ning Shi's burning gaze. The next second, he suddenly leaned over and pressed his thin lips, which were mixed with the smell of tobacco, on the girl's lips accurately. Ning Shi's eyes widened. She could only feel the strong smell of tobacco accompanied by the man's cold breath. Then her lips were softly pushed open and a mouthful of smoke entered. Ningxi choked and coughed repeatedly. There was only half of the cigarette left at the tip of his finger. Lu Tingxiao calmly took another puff and looked at the little guy beside him, whose eyes were full of tears because of coughing and looked even more tempting and sadistic. He asked, "Do you want more?" Chapter 42. Ning Shi, choked by the smoke, glares at the man angrily, as if looking at a bad guy. Huh. Lu Tingxiao let out a low chuckle when he saw her expression. His smile rippled like ripples in his eyes. He pinched out the cigarette butt and spat out the smoke in his mouth. Then he leaned over again, turned his head and pressed his lips against hers. Ning Shi subconsciously wants to escape, but a hand grabs her waist and a low, husky voice coaxes in her sensitive ears, "I won't choke you this time." As soon as the voice falls, a kiss with the smell of smoke engulfs all her consciousness. Ning Shi is kissed dizzily, and her brain is in a mess, as if floating in the clouds. The only thing she understands is that the man who locks her between his arms is more dangerous than smoke. With a bang, the back of the chair behind her is put down, followed by the man's hot body. The breath in her chest is robbed little by little, and Ning Shi feels more and more dizzy, and then completely sinks to the bottom of the sea. The little guy under him suddenly becomes motionless and unresponsive. Lu Tingxiao raises his head, panting slightly, and then sees someone sleeping carelessly, even snoring slightly. Lu Tingxiao's blood-red eyes suddenly returned to their black color, and the surging anger in his heart also dissipated completely. Oh, he is really crazy. Why does he care about a drunkard? It's only been 3 days. They have only known each other for 3 days. Why is he in such a hurry? This little girl's attraction to him is unreasonable. When he first saw her, he had a kind of ecstasy of regaining what he had lost. Meeting her for the first time, it was like returning an old friend. In the warehouse of that bar, when he held her in his arms, he had the illusion that his incomplete life was finally complete, as if she was the treasure he had lost at some time. He wants her to belong to him completely, and he doesn't want to wait for a moment. He doesn't want to lose her completely, so he can only wait. Lu Tingxiao takes a blanket and pillow from the back, adjusts the temperature of the air conditioner, and then lies next to her, kissing her forehead. "Good night, my girl." The next morning, Ningxi wakes up in a warm embrace. She raised her hand and rubbed her eyes. Through the glass window above her head, she saw a patch of green leaves. The bright and beautiful morning light flowed through the gaps between the branches and leaves, shining on her body warmly. She could also hear the melodious chirping of birds. Oh, where was she? She looked around and was surprised to find that she was sleeping in a car. To be precise, she was sleeping in Lu Tingxiao's arms. Oh my God! Ningxi almost scrambled to get up, and then her head hit the roof of the car, making her grimace in pain. Lu Tingxiao, in the car. Damn it, what happened last night? Why did I wake up in such a fucking situation? It was impossible for her not to misunderstand the situation in front of her. What are you thinking about? Ningxi bit her finger anxiously. Her brain was in a mess. She answered subconsciously, "I was wondering if I had sex with the Demon King last night after getting drunk." That's too scary. Demon King? Cheijun? If it's as you said, do you think you still have the strength to jump up and down early in the morning and let your imagination run wild? The man's voice was filled with anger. Ningxi found that Lu Tingxiao had woken up. She was so scared that she bounced up and almost hit her head again. Fortunately, Lu Tingxiao was prepared and protected her head with his big palm. Mr. Lu, call my name." Lu Tingxiao's tone was slightly cold. When she was hypocritical, she called him Mr. Lu. When she was afraid of him, she called him Master Xiao. He didn't like it. She didn't know if it was her imagination, but Ningxi felt that Lu Tingxiao seemed to have changed in one night. Chapter 43. Or rather, it wasn't that he had changed, but that he had hidden it so well that she had never known him. Ningxi's eyes fell on the deep wound on the back of his hand, and she asked, Lu Tingxiao, what happened to your hand?" Lu Tingxiao glanced at the small bite mark and looked at her with a faint smile. "What do you think?" Ningxi swallowed her saliva. These teeth marks look familiar. Lu Tingxiao looked impressed. Good eye. Ahem. Thanks for the compliment. Ningxi laughed dryly and asked carefully, Did I bite you? Do you think I'm framing you? You can bite me again to compare, Lu Tingxiao suggested and extended his hand to her. Ningxi waved her hands awkwardly. No, I admit it. I admit it. Okay? By the way, what happened last night? I drank too much and only remember going into the washroom. I don't remember anything else. How did I come back? You passed out in the ladies' washroom. I went in and carried you out, but you refused to go with me and bit me, Lu Tingxiao answered simply and precisely. Ningxi was confused. You went into the ladies' washroom. She was really sinful. The devil had sacrificed too much. Then why did I sleep in the car? Ningxi continued to ask. Because you couldn't bear to part with your little darling. Lu Tingxiao emphasized the word little darling. Ningxi glanced at the Adonis that she had admired for a long time and immediately believed Lu Tingxiao's words. I'm really sorry to have caused you trouble. Ningxi apologized weakly. She felt really bad that so many things had happened on the second night. Lu Tingxiao didn't respond to her but asked an irrelevant question. Why did you drink so much last night? Ningxi's face darkened. Looking at the sudden change in her expression, the beast in Lu Tingxiao's heart slowly emerged. Ningxi didn't have the habit of sharing her worries with others, but it was probably too uncomfortable to keep them to herself. She leaned back in the chair weakly, looked up at the shade above her head and murmured, I'm afraid the role of Meng Chang'e is gone. Lu Tingxiao was taken aback. What? It's just a supporting role. I know you won't understand even if I tell you. You don't know how hard I've worked for this day. You don't know how happy I am to get this role. You don't know. Ningxi hurriedly raised her hand to cover her eyes as she spoke. Lu Tingxiao had always thought that she lost her composure because of Su Yin. He didn't expect there to be a hidden reason. She was not sad because of Su Yin, but because she had lost that role. Lu Tingxiao's mood, which had been gloomy for the whole night, instantly brightened up. Seeing the girl's sad look, his heart tightened again. How could he not understand how much she valued her dream? Otherwise, she wouldn't have refused to take the shortcut and stubbornly climbed up step by step. Don't be sad. You've already done very well. Lu Tingxiao held the girl's head and gently leaned it against his chest. So the main culprit wasn't Su Yin, but Ning Yaohua. Ning Yaohua was the biggest investor of Under the Heavens and had the right to dismiss any roles. Even her biological father would not allow anyone to bully his girl. Chapter 44. After Ningxi calmed down, she realized that she had been crying in Lu Tingxiao's arms for half an hour. What the hell? She hadn't cried in 5 years, except when it was necessary for filming. I'm sorry. I dirtied your shirt. Ningxi looked at Lu Tingxiao's shirt, which was wet from her crying. Lu Tingxiao's lips curled up. It's its honor. Ningxi was stunned on the spot. Her heart was beating wildly. She had always thought that Lu Tingxiao was a genius with high IQ but low EQ. She had never expected the devil to be so good at flirting with girls. Jealousy. He was even better at flirting than her. Lu Tingxiao naturally reached out to tidy her slightly messy hair. What are you going to do next? Look for a thigh? Ningxi blinked, puzzled. Huh? What thigh? Last night, you said you wanted to find a big thigh. You even said that mine wasn't big enough. Lu Tingxiao looked at her meaningfully. Cough, cough, cough. Ningxi almost choked to death on her own saliva. Damn it. How many magical things had happened last night? Master Xiao, don't listen to my nonsense. I'm drunk. How can your thighs not be thick? You're the thickest person in the entire capital. Ningxi had a fawning look on her face. After saying that, she realized that her words seemed a little ambiguous. Lu Tingxiao was in a good mood from the flattery. His eyes rippled with a smile. Then why don't you hug me? I. Ningxi stuttered for a long time but couldn't say anything. Lu Tingxiao patted her head and finally let her go. All right, I won't tease you anymore. Get out of the car and go back to the house to sleep. Only after a good rest will you have the energy to deal with the difficulties. Or do you want to stay with your little baby a little longer? No. Let's go back to the house. Ningxi naturally couldn't wait to get out of the car. After getting out of the car, Lu Tingxiao stood by the car door and suddenly stopped moving. Ningxi scratched her head. What's wrong? Lu Tingxiao strode towards a bush with his long legs. Ningxi followed him out of curiosity. Then, she saw second young master Lu sleeping soundly in the grass with a camera in his arms. She knew that Shengshi not only had a management company but also more than 300 media companies. Second young master Lu was the leader of the paparazzi. But this guy was too exaggerated. He didn't even let go of the gossip about his own brother. The corners of Ningxi's mouth twitched. Second young master. Should we wake him up? Won't you catch a cold if you sleep like this? Lu Tingxiao nodded and sent a kick over. Lu Jingli awoke with a cry. As soon as she woke up, she started crying. This is too much. Why is the glass of this car so unscientific? I've tried everything, but I still can't see inside. Lu Tingxiao looked down at his silly younger brother. I'll be in the study later. I have something to tell you. Oh, Lu Jingli rubbed his eyes and patted the dust off his face as he got up. His gaze kept going back and forth between the two of them as he muttered, Why isn't the car shaking? Did I miss it? Impossible. With my brother's stamina, it would take him at least one night. Ningxi asked, Why do you know your brother's stamina and time so well? It's very easy for people to misunderstand. Okay. Lu Jingli scratched his head. Because he beats me up the whole night. Ningxi, fine, you win. After returning to the guest room that Lu Tingxiao had prepared for her, Ningxi was completely speechless. In just half a day and one night, he had actually gotten someone to redecorate the guest room. The original style of the room was cold and clean, but now it was warm and cozy. Not only that, there was a row of clothes in the cupboard, all of them in her size, from pajamas to casual wear to evening gowns to jewelry and bags. All of them were top-notch limited edition. This is inhumane. Chapter 45. What? Are you not satisfied? Lu Tingxiao stood behind her. Ningxi held her forehead. It's not a question of satisfaction. Then what is it? Boss Lu, call me by my name. Fine, Lu Tingxiao. Don't you think you are too nice to me? So nice that she couldn't help thinking about it. You finally know that I am nice to you. Lu Tingxiao looked at her as if she had learned something. Ningxi, Lu Tingxiao's eyes dimmed for a second when he saw the girl's hesitation, but soon returned to normal. You saved Xiaobao, and Xiaobao may need your help for a long time in the future. What's wrong with me being nice to you? Lu Tingxiao paused and then looked at her. Or do you want me to repay you in other ways? It turned out that she was overthinking. Ningxi finally felt relieved. She quickly waved her hand and said, No, it's fine like this. It's fine. As for other ways of repaying him, he could forget about it. How could a person like Lu Tingxiao belong to the same world as her? If he knew her dirty past, he might not even let her see Xiaobao again. It's still early. Take a rest and come downstairs for breakfast. Okay. After Lu Tingxiao left, Ningxi lay on the big, comfortable bed, not sleepy at all. How could a person who was waiting for the bad news fall asleep? Even if the directors were very satisfied with her, could she withstand the pressure from the investors? She couldn't sit still anymore. Ningxi turned over and sat up. She turned on the computer and logged into SN. Are you there? Dirty Demon King. Hey, Superstar Ning, why are you looking for me? Do you have money? Can you lend me 8 million? Dirty Demon King. What happened? Can you not ask for the reason? Dirty Demon King. I just invested the money in a winery. It may take some time. How long will it take? Dirty Demon King. 3 days. Thank you, she said. Oh, honey, this is the first time you have asked me. When are you going back to China? I'll pick you up. Filthy Demon King. Ningxi, you are so heartless. Looking at the darkened portrait of the Demon King, Ningxi felt suffocated. If she wasn't forced to, she didn't want to owe anyone a favor, especially when this person was someone she used to date. She knew that her method of equivalent exchange had hurt the other party's feelings, but she had no choice. She no longer had feelings, and she didn't want to have them either. As for why she didn't borrow from Lu Tingxiao, it was because she already had enough connections with the Lus. She really didn't want to get involved any further, especially when it came to things like money. An hour later, Ningxi finally received a call. It was Chang Li Ning. She clenched her fists, took a deep breath, and answered the call. Hello? Don't forget to turn on your phone at 9 in the morning. You can take a taxi there yourself. I still have to take care of Shui Luo, so I don't have time to take care of you. Since you're so capable, you don't need me. Chang Li was still as sharp as ever. The only difference was that her tone today was especially bad, as if she owed her 8 million yuan. What? Turn it on? Ning Shi was stunned. Did you sleep too much? Hurry up, you can't be late on the first day. Chang Li's tone was impatient, and she hung up the phone directly. Ning Shi held the phone, unable to come back to her senses. What was going on? She wasn't replaced? Ning Shi climbed out of the bed, paced around the room, and finally dialed the director's number. Hello, Director Gua. Sorry to disturb you so early. I have something to ask you. You want to ask about Chairman Ning's plan to replace you, right? Yes. Ning Shi's heart tightened. Ning Yaohua really wanted to talk to her. Chapter 46. Ning Shi, Producer Wang, Scriptwriter Yi, and I are all very satisfied with you. But the reality is cruel. Passion is not enough. The most important thing is the money. Sometimes we can't decide the roles. Who has the final say? The one who pays the most money has the final say. Hearing this, Ning Shi's heart gradually sank to the bottom. Was she still replaced? Then why did Chang Li tell her to shoot the movie? Chairman Ning did come to me last night. He thought you were a newcomer and didn't agree to use you. But Guo Qixing paused. Ning Shi was so anxious that she wanted to drag the director over from the other end of the phone and shake him. Couldn't he just say it all at once? But Ning Shi, you're lucky. Another investor is very optimistic about you and said that Meng Chang'e must have you. Do a good job. Really? Ning Shi's heart skipped a beat again. Don't be too excited. She felt that she had been fooled by the director. Director Gua, you did it on purpose, didn't you? You almost scared me out of my wits. Ha ha ha. Young people are so impatient. Can you give me a definite answer? Have I been swapped or not? No. That investor invested 50 million yuan. It's the total investment of the Ning family and Starlight, so he has the final say. Aren't the only investors of this movie the Ning family and Starlight? Why is there another one? Ning Shi felt strange. It's just an additional investment. You'll know later. Guo Qixing said in high spirits. Suddenly, there was an additional investment of 50 million yuan. Now it was a big investment of 100 million yuan. And Ning Shi, who he was most satisfied with, was no longer replaced by an investor who didn't know the market. How could he not be happy? Okay, thank you, Director. Ning Shi hung up the phone. Suddenly, the door was pushed open with a squeak. It was the sleepy little bun. Ning Shi screamed happily and then rushed over to hug the little bun and kissed her hard. Baby, you're really my lucky star. Every time, he would save me from danger. Outside the door, the devil looked at his son who was kissed passionately by the girl. It was his credit, but forget it. Looking at the girl's bright smile, nothing mattered. Lu Tingxiao walked over. Why are you so happy? Ning Shi held the little bun, who was dazed by her sudden enthusiasm. Just now, the director told me that I won't be replaced. The biggest investor of this show likes me very much. Is that so? Congratulations. Lu Tingxiao congratulated him in a serious manner. Ning Shi thought and touched her chin. But the director didn't tell me who the investor is. Anyway, he must be a very, very good taste, very, very handsome man. Lu Tingxiao chuckled. You really think so? Of course. Ning Shi looked protective and then suddenly thought of something. In this case, I may have to shoot during the day and sometimes at night. What about Xiaobao? Lu Tingxiao didn't reply. Instead, he looked at his son. After being passionately kissed and hugged by Ning Shi, Xiaobaozi was in a very good mood. Even after hearing the bad news, he still had a happy expression on his little face. Then, he ran to his room. Ning Shi thought he was going to lock her up again and was nervous. She didn't expect him to come back quickly with a writing board in his hand. On the writing board was written, Fight. Ning Shi was so touched that she was about to cry. Thank you, baby. You're really my angel. Lu Tingxiao looked at the big and small hugging each other. His gaze was gentle like never before. Chapter 47. The shooting started today at the film and television city in the suburbs. The first scene was the palace banquet. The emperor received foreign envoys. The seventh prince, Chu Beichen, and the seventh concubine, Shang Wanningrong, dealt with all kinds of provocations from the envoys. Ning Shi, who played the role of concubine Da, didn't have many scenes. All she had to do was sit beside the emperor and act like a vase. Even so, it was hard for her to wear layers of ancient clothes on such a hot day. Ning Shi's costume was the most complicated. Her clothes were the thickest, and the ornaments on her head weighed a few kilograms. It was not obvious from the outside, but the inside was completely soaked. The moment the director said cut, Ning Shuelua's two assistants immediately went up to her. One fanned her, and the other handed her water. The chair was also covered with ice cushions. Ning Shi didn't have any assistants. She didn't even have water to drink after the shooting. She still had scenes to shoot, so she could only unbutton her collar to get some fresh air. Everyone was praising Ning Shuelua's performance, including the director. However, he turned around and watched Ning Shi's scenes again and again. Although she didn't have any lines and there were only a few scenes, the look in her eyes was perfect. It was enchanting, lazy, bored, and disdainful because she was going to destroy the country with her own hands. Good. He could finally rest assured. At this time, Shaoli, the stage supervisor, suddenly shouted excitedly, "Ms. Ning, your boyfriend is here to visit you." Of course, he was calling Ning Shuelua. Su Yin walked over in casual clothes, followed by two subordinates. They were carrying a big box and giving out ice cream to everyone. Wow, it's Haagen-Dazs. Thank you, Mr. Su. Ms. Ning is so lucky. Her boyfriend came to visit her on the first day. Oh my God, it's so unfair. Food can't stop you from talking. Ning Shuelua pouted and walked to Ning Shi with a box of ice cream. Junior sister Ning, have some too. Thank you. Ning Shi took it politely. Every time this woman appeared in front of outsiders, especially Su Yin, she had to pretend to be an angel. She was not tired, but she was tired of watching. Fortunately, acting was her profession, so she did not mind acting with her. After returning to her seat, Ning Shuelua looked at Su Yin. She wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. In the end, she said hesitantly, "Brother Yin, I'm a little worried about Xiaoxi." What's wrong with Xiaoxi? Su Yin immediately asked. Wasn't it the opening party last night? My dad also came and met Xiaoxi. I don't know what Xiaoxi said to Dad, but he was so furious that he wanted to change her role. How could this be? Su Yin frowned. I don't know either. When I arrived, I only saw Dad's face turning green from anger. What happened next? Xiaoxi doesn't seem to have been replaced. Su Yin took a look at Ning Shi. Although the girl was sweating profusely, she was still reading the script carefully. Under the sun, her little face, although embarrassed, was extremely dazzling. Ning Shuelua continued as if she was in a dilemma. My dad called the crew that night, and they agreed on the phone that they would replace Xiaoxi. But unexpectedly, the next morning, someone suddenly anonymously invested 50 million yuan in this film. The only requirement was that Ning Shi must be the second female lead. I'm worried. The more Su Yin listened, the angrier he became. Finally, he said seriously, I know Xiaoxi. She would never do that kind of thing. Brother Yin, you're too naive. What kind of place is the entertainment circle? How could anyone who entered this circle not change? I'm lucky because I have Dad and you to support me. But Ning Shi, she quarreled with her family and refused to accept our help. Don't you know what a powerless and beautiful girl will encounter in the entertainment circle? Ning Shi, someone is looking for you. At this time, the floor supervisor suddenly shouted inside in a strange tone. For a moment, everyone's eyes were on him. Because it was too eye-catching. Red roses, an overwhelming number of red roses, were brought in one after another. Chapter 48. By the time everyone realized what was going on, the whole set had turned into a sea of red. It was summer, and it was even hotter. Ning Shi held a card in her hand and almost fainted from anger. There was a line of words on the card. Remember to pick me up at the airport, dirty demon queen. Miss Ning, please sign for it. Fuck you. Take them back. It's too much trouble to keep them here. Ningxi tried to be gentle. No, we promised the customer that we would only leave after you signed for it. The delivery man said awkwardly. Ningxi pinched her eyebrows and wrote her name on the card. Now that I've signed for it, your task is complete. These flowers are mine, right? Yes. The delivery man nodded. Okay, I'll give them to you now. It's up to you whether you want them or not. The delivery man froze for a second and then called the workers over to carry the flowers out. Less than a minute after the delivery man left, someone came to find her again. This time it wasn't so exaggerated. The person gave her a small box. Ningxi nervously opened it, only to see a large sparkling diamond lying inside, with a note attached. On the note were 4 words, "Long time no see." Signed, Y.S. Ningxi's face darkened as she stared at the 2 letters. In just half a day, there were flowers and diamonds. The whole crew was in an uproar, and Ningxi fell into the chair, looking hopeless. What would come would come. She couldn't hide from it. Ningxi took a few deep breaths and tried to calm herself down. Then she walked up to the director. Sorry, Director Gua. I've caused trouble for the crew. A fair lady is a gentleman's dream. It's okay. It's okay. Gua Qixing smiled but still reminded her. It's good for the crew that an actor has a scandal, but it's easy to change. You'd better be careful. Ningxi nodded. Thank you, Director. Not far away, Ning Shui sneered. She was jealous that Ningxi had a face that could drive men crazy. She was happy that she had finally fallen to that level. Yin, do you still think she won't do that? Maybe those men are just pursuing her. Su Yin looked conflicted. Pursuing? To put it nicely, it's pursuing. To put it bluntly, didn't he just want to keep her? Who in that industry would be sincere to a small celebrity with no background? Su Yan's face was cold, unable to refute. Before the next scene began, Ningxi quickly found a corner and made a phone call. Hello, dear. Have you received it? The voice on the other end of the phone was very leisurely. Jiangmai, I'll fuck you. You're sincere, aren't you? In contrast, Ningxi was much hotter. TSK, you're the first one who didn't want to fuck me after receiving my roses, but fuck me instead. Isn't that too heavy a taste? Don't try to change the subject. What do you want? Nothing. I just wanted to remind you to pick me up at the airport. You've already promised me. How dare you ask me to pick you up? Aren't you afraid that I'll bring a 40-meter-long machete and hack you to death? Ningxi suppressed her desire to kill. Are you going back on your word? The voice on the other end of the phone turned cold. The premise of me picking you up was that you would lend me 8 million yuan. But now I don't need it. Didn't I text you and tell you that? I don't care. Anyway, you've already promised me. Although I didn't lend you the money in the end, I agreed as soon as you asked me. It was such a large amount of money. That's not fake, is it? Don't you hate owing others? Isn't this favor a favor? Ningxi held her forehead and walked back and forth angrily. I won't mention that you sent me flowers. But you know that the news that you will return to China next month has been leaked out. At that time, the airport will be full of your fans and the media. You want me to pick you up? Do you want me to be torn apart by them? Jiangmai, didn't you just get dumped by me once? Do you have to do this to me? Chapter 49. Did I? I'm giving you a free chance to be famous. Many starlets are begging for it. No need. Okay, if you don't come, I'll tell the whole world that you dumped me. Anyway, I don't care about losing face. I want justice for me. The person on the other end of the phone said in a fearless tone. You. Ningxi was about to explode. The stupidest thing she had ever done in her life was to provoke Jiangmai, the scourge. Do you think I can't deal with you? Ningxi slowly raised the corner of her mouth and chuckled. Okay, I'm going to pick you up, right? Damn it. Don't regret it then. Jiangmai was actually fine. It was the first time for him to be dumped, and he wanted to make trouble. It would be fine when he was done. But the one who gave her the diamond was the evildoer who gave her the diamond. Forget it. Forget it. I'll deal with it when it comes. Ningxi, someone is looking for. As soon as Ningxi came out from the corner, she heard Shaoli, the stage supervisor, screaming at her. She was so scared that she wanted to run away. Who is this? It's not over yet. If it was the first time, then it was still romantic. If it was the second time, then she would be popular. If it was the third time, then she would definitely attract bees and butterflies. Sure enough, people in the crew looked at her with unfriendly eyes. No wonder she can play Mingchanga. She's a vixen in real life. Can she handle so many men? What do you know? She must be enjoying it. I really thought she got the position with her strength. It turns out she's relying on cozies, and so many cozies at once. How could it be with her strength? She just behaved like a vase. Miss Xiaoxi, are you all right? This time it was a timid little girl. Seeing Ningxi's pale face, she thought she had done something wrong and was very nervous. Facing such a girl, Ningxi couldn't vent her anger no matter how angry she was. I'm fine. What can I do for you? I'm here to deliver something. As the little girl spoke, she opened a white thing that looked like an incubator. Suddenly, layers of cold white steam came out of it. Then, she saw 3 bottles of red, yellow, and green juice inside. This is? The corner of Ningxi's mouth twitched. She had seen too many harem dramas, and her first reaction was that someone was trying to poison her. This is personally squeezed by my young master. There's watermelon juice, orange juice, and mung bean soup, the little girl replied. Who is your young master? Ningxi was suspicious. She tried to remember if there was a young master who liked squeezing juice among the people she had messed with. The little girl gestured to her to look at the note on the bottle. Ningxi took it off and saw an English word written on it, Fike. There was also a heart drawn behind it. Ningxi could imagine the shy look on the girl's face when she drew the heart. Oh, it's little treasure. Ningxi's gaze instantly turned gentle, and her chaotic heart instantly calmed down. Why should she care about the gazes of those who didn't care about her? If she always cared about other people's gazes, wouldn't she die of exhaustion? In those days, she was too concerned about the contemptuous gazes of those so-called celebrities, too concerned about the so-called attitude of her biological parents, too concerned about Su Yan's thoughts, so she lived more and more inferiority and lost herself. She had long understood this truth, but she was distracted for a moment. She would be herself and have a clear conscience. One day, she would prove herself with strength. She would only fight for those who cared about her. Chapter 50. Put it down and thank your young master for me. Ningxi took out her cell phone and sent a text message to Xiao Bao. The crew seemed to be busy with their own things, but in fact, they were all staring at Ningxi, curious about what she had sent this time. They seemed to see 3 bottles of fruit juice. For the first time, Ningxi returned the rose. For the second time, Ningxi didn't seem to be surprised. But this time, Ningxi had a happy expression and was still happily texting. Well, was the juice filled with diamonds? Just as they were thinking about this, they saw Ningxi raise her head and gulp down the juice bottle after bottle. They finally figured it out. The person who sent the juice must be the richest. In a sense, these people's guesses were quite correct. After drinking the juice and mung bean soup, Ningxi was full of energy and went on stage again. At the same time, Lu Tingxiao, who was on vacation with his son at home, heard his cell phone ring. There was a new text message from Ningxi. Lu Tingxiao clicked on it, and the corners of his mouth curled up. Baby, thank you for the juice and mung bean soup, super delicious. Salong heya. Lu Tingxiao looked at it for a long time before he waved to his son, who was staring blankly out of the window. Xiao Bao, come here. Xiao Bao ignored him. Lu Tingxiao sighed. There's a text from your Aunt Xiaoxi. Xiao Bao rushed over like a rocket and jumped to get the cell phone. Lu Tingxiao raised the cell phone. I can show it to you, but call me Dad. Xiao Bao protested and refused to cooperate. When his son was about to cry, Lu Tingchuan finally relented and handed him the cell phone. Looking at his son, who was holding the cell phone with satisfaction, Lu Tingxiao looked worried. Maybe because there were very few things in the world that worried him, God sent Xiao Bao to him to test him. Xiao Bao was very smart and could speak at 6 months. Although he liked to be quiet and didn't talk much, he hadn't spoken since that incident. He had missed too much in his childhood. When he wanted to make up for it, he found it was too late. He didn't know when he could hear him call him Dad again. Xiao Bao stared at the phone for a long time, as if there was something he couldn't understand. Then, He moved in front of his father and pointed at the words, Salong Hayub, with his stubby finger, probably asking him what he meant. It's just a tone of voice. It doesn't have any special meaning, Lu Tingxiao answered seriously. Pfft, Appa, you're uncultured. Don't lead Lil treasure astray. Salangio means I love you in Korean, okay? Lu Jingli skipped over and waved a heart in his hand. Xiaobao gave his father a look of disdain before running off to continue squeezing juice. Lu Tingxiao knew 12 languages. If Ningxi had written it in Korean, he would have understood it. But if she wrote it like this, he would not be able to understand it. Don't you need to go to work? Lu Tingxiao glanced at Lu Jingli coldly. Lu Jingli immediately moved a chair and sat in front of him excitedly. Boss, I have something very important to report to you. Lu Tingxiao was too lazy to open his mouth. He looked like he was ready to fart. Lu Jingli waved his hands excitedly. Do you know what news I just received? Today, little Cece's admirer went to the set and gave her a gift. That was the juice and mung bean soup that Xiaobao gave her. Lu Tingxiao looked calm. I know, but before Xiaobao gave her something, someone else also gave her something, and it was 2 people. One gave her a whole set of red roses, and the other gave her a 10-carat diamond. Lu Tingxiao's face gradually became cold. The hot summer was very cooling. Chapter 51. Have you found out who they are? Lu Tingxiao looked as if he would kill them if he found out. Lu Jingli knocked on the table. That's the point I want to tell you. Even with my intelligence network, I still can't find out who they are. It seems that we have to wait for them to make a move again. The devil's eyes could already kill people. How could he wait for them to make a move again? Lu Tingxiao immediately made a call. His tone was as cold as the wind blowing from the glacier. Chung Feng, help me investigate 2 people. Lu Jingli looked surprised. Wow, even the genie guards have been dispatched. His brother's intelligence network was naturally incomparable to his gossip network. He could dig out your background with just a little clue. Brother, I told you that Ningxi's past is not simple. Do you believe me now? I think you'd better ask Chung Feng to investigate Ningxi. Lu Jingli suggested earnestly. No need. Everyone had their own past that they didn't want others to know. He wouldn't touch the part that she didn't want others to know. If she wanted to tell him, he would tell him. At 6:00 in the afternoon, the shooting was finally over. Today's main scenes were all about the male and female leads. Ningxi didn't have many scenes, but she still had to be a vase for the whole day. Being a vase was also very tiring. Her neck was about to break, and she had rashes all over her body. After changing and removing her makeup, she put on her mask and was ready to take the subway. She wasn't famous now, and few people knew her. It was convenient to take the subway, and there was no traffic jam. She was walking towards the station when a black Maserati stopped beside her. The window was lowered, and Su Yin looked at her with a smile. Xiaoxi, let me drive you. Ningxi, ex-boyfriend again. Couldn't he give her a break for a while? No need. Ningxi walked straight ahead. She didn't want to face the face that made her nauseous. Su Yin followed her slowly and refused to leave. Xiaoxi, let's talk. Okay? Ningxi sneered. What do I have to talk to you about? Do you think I haven't had enough scandals today? Do you want to be photographed and then give them a bigger one? Su Yin frowned. He was not used to the cold attitude of the little girl who used to be so obedient to him. Xiaoxi, I didn't mean that. I really have something important to talk to you about. If she continued to be entangled with him on the road, she was afraid that she would really be photographed. This guy's car was so eye-catching. Ningxi looked around. Making sure there was no one around, she quickly opened the door and got in. Half an hour later, in a private room of a restaurant, Su Yin called the waiter over and ordered a bunch of dishes, most of which were her favorites. Xiaoxi, long time no see. I don't know if your taste has changed. How have you been abroad all these years? I transferred money to you, but you returned all of it. In the end, you even changed your account. If you have something to say, say it. Ningxi propped her head up and sent a text message to Xiaobao, informing him that she would be returning late. Su Yin had no choice but to push a check in front of her. Ningxi glanced at the check and narrowed her eyes. What do you mean? Su Yin looked at her sternly. Xiaoxi, Don't do anything you'll regret. Ning Shi put down her cell phone and looked at him with a faint smile. Oh? Tell me, what did I do? Then tell me, how did you get this role? Su Yan suddenly said seriously. Chapter 52. How do you think I came here? Ning Shi crossed her arms, leaned back in the chair, and asked casually. Su Yan couldn't bear it anymore and pounded the table. Ning Shi, you know better than me what a girl like you will encounter in the entertainment circle. Why do you have to get involved in the entertainment circle? Well, a girl like me. Ning Shi chuckled. I wonder what kind of identity young Master Su is speaking to me like this today? If she had heard these words, she would have gone hysterical. Su Yan said that he didn't want his future wife to enter the entertainment circle, but Ning Xuelua fully supported him. Now he was still criticizing her life. Xiaoxi, even though we broke up, I have always regarded you as my sister. I just want to help you. Can you not be so stubborn? Take the money, terminate the contract with Xing Hui, and leave the entertainment circle. Su Yan tried to persuade her. Oh, help me. Ning Shi's lazy gaze suddenly became piercingly cold. Speaking of which, I do have a favor that needs young Master Su's help. I hope you can help me tell the truth to the Ning family and testify in court that Ning Xuelua bribed 2 men to rape me. Will you help me? Xiaoxi, I. Su Yan's face turned pale. If I do this, Xuelua will be finished. Besides, Xuelua didn't rape you. You went into the wrong room and then had sex with someone else. Although it was an expected answer, Ning Shi's heart still ached. She said sarcastically, So you mean you didn't do anything wrong at that time? It was my fault to be drunk, drugged, and raped. It was also my fault to be pregnant with a bastard and give birth to a stillborn baby. Su Yan frowned. Xiaoxi, I didn't mean that. Xuelua and I have apologized to you and have been trying to make it up to you for so many years. Why can't you let it go? Ning Shi picked up her bag and stood up. Oh, you want me to let it go? Wait until your Xueluo is raped by someone and she is pregnant with his bastard child. When you are able to shake hands with the other party and happily wear a green hat, then come and beg me. Su Yan's face suddenly changed. Ning Shi, how can you say that? Yo, I just said it verbally, and you're so distressed. You don't know pain until it happens to you, right? You expect me to forgive you? I'm not such a saint. Ning Shi said and strode away. How unlucky. She shouldn't have talked so much with Su Yan. It was so disgusting that she couldn't even eat dinner tonight. He had to hurry home and hug little Bun to heal. As soon as Ning Shi walked to the gate of the Lu's house, she saw a white and cute little Bun running towards her. It seemed like he had been waiting for her by the window since early in the morning. As expected, Ning Shi was instantly healed. As usual, she gave the little Bun a super big one. Baby, have you eaten before? I sent you a text to tell you not to wait for me to eat. Did you listen? Little Bun nodded. Good boy. Ning Shi kissed little Bun again as a reward. You play by yourself first. Annie will go change and take a shower. Little Bun nodded. Hand in hand, the two of them walked towards the gate. On the second floor, Lu Tingxiao looked a little melancholic as he looked at the scene below. He never knew that he was such a jealous person. He was even beginning to be jealous of his son. Ning Shi kissed his son twice the moment she came back, and he could only watch from afar. After returning to her room, the first thing Ning Shi did was to take off her bra. Wearing this on a hot summer day was simply torture. Okay? She reached out to unbutton the back and was pulling the bra out. Halfway through, the door behind her was pushed open with a creak. Ning. Lu Tingxiao was stunned after saying one word. His hand was still in the position of pushing the door open as he looked at the situation in the room in astonishment. Chapter 53. Ning Shi kept that awkward posture. She didn't know whether to pull it out or stuff it back. It was really miserable. To make matters worse, the bra she was wearing today was custom-made for her. There was a triangular Superman logo printed on both sides, which was very eye-catching. Lu Tingxiao obviously noticed it. He raised his eyebrows slightly but didn't show any more shock. He coughed and said, Sorry, I didn't close the door. Then he was about to leave. It's okay. It's my fault. I forgot to close the door. Ning Shi pretended to be calm, pulled out the bra, stuffed it under the quilt, and fanned herself with her hand. Well, it's too hot in the summer. You men won't understand women's worries. Well, what's the matter? Why did you come back so late? Did you have a date? Lu Tingxiao asked casually. What date? I met a very annoying person, so I just chatted with him. Ningxi mumbled. It was definitely not a date. Lu Tingxiao's face softened a little. I left some food for you. Eat it after your shower. Actually, I can solve the problem of eating by myself. Ningxi said embarrassedly. You don't need to talk to me. Okay. After Lu Tingxiao left, Ningxi quickly locked the door from the inside. She didn't realize that she had made such a low-level mistake in her own home. She had to be careful in the future. After taking a shower and eating, Ningxi comfortably nestled in bed and began to surf the internet. Little Bun was lying on the table, reading a big book. Ning Shualua confessed her love to her handsome boyfriend in public. Best actor Zhao was jealous on the spot. Ning Shualua praised Ningxi's beauty and strength. Ningxi deserves to be the most beautiful girl in the entertainment circle. She crushed Jia Qingqing. Meng Chang'e won the favor at the opening ceremony of The World. Ning Shualua's handsome boyfriend visited the set on the first day of The World. Looking at the rich pursuers of the new star Ning Shi, roses piled up on the set on the first day of The World. Up to this point, it was still normal, but then it became more and more strange. It evolved into Ning Shi has a sugar daddy, Ning Shi has a sugar daddy, Ning Shi has a foot in many boats, Ning Shi's private life is messy. Ning Shi had been prepared when she was on the set, so she was calm when she saw this. She knew that even if the incident between Jiang Mai and YS hadn't happened that day, with her current image, she would still be involved in these scandals sooner or later. Those gossips all used ambiguous words, and there was no conclusive evidence. They were afraid that if one thing was repeated too many times, people would believe it regardless of whether it was true or not. Do you need help? Lu Tingxiao's voice sounded in her ears. Ningxi got up with the laptop in her arms, held her chin, and smiled. Boss Lu, are you going to cheat on me? Why not? Lu Tingxiao handed her and Xiaobao a glass of milk. Yours is low-fat. Thank you. Ningxi was flattered, took the cup and said, Thank you for your kindness, but there's no need. I believe time will prove everything. I believe you, Lu Tingxiao said. Ningxi was stunned, and then she held her forehead helplessly. Lu Tingxiao, has anyone told you that you are really good at flirting with girls? Flirting with girls? Lu Tingxiao looked suspicious. Obviously, he didn't know what these words meant. Well, it means to make girls happy. Ningxi explained simply. Lu Tingxiao's eyes lit up. I'm glad to hear your comment. Does this mean that I've pleased you? As soon as he said that, the atmosphere immediately became ambiguous. Ningxi's cheeks immediately heated up, and she was annoyed. That was his fault. That was his fault for bringing up such a dangerous topic. Fortunately, Lu Tingxiao knew when to stop. I'm going to the study to read some documents. You two remember to rest early. Good night. Ningxi, good night, Xiaobao. Although Xiaobao didn't say anything, his face clearly said, Go, don't disturb me in Aunt Xiaoxi. Chapter 54. The next morning, after Ningxi left, Lu Tingxiao called Lu Jingli worriedly. Send someone to keep an eye on the crew. Brother, are you worried that someone will bully sister-in-law? These are all necessary experiences on the road to fame. It's good for her to train. If she doesn't go through all this, she won't be able to hold her own in the future. Lu Jingli imitated Lu Tingxiao's tone when he lectured him. Lu Tingxiao replied, She doesn't need it. In other words, he was there to protect her. Lu Jingli. Lu Jingli's heart sank at his brother's differential treatment. That's not what you said when you kicked me into Golden Era's mess and forbade anyone from helping me. All right, I'll send someone to keep an eye on her. I'll make sure she doesn't lose a single hair. I'll give you a week off next month. Lu Tingxiao suddenly said. What? Brother, what did you just say? Lu Jingli thought he was hallucinating. You're giving me a week off? You haven't given me a break in 3 years. You don't want it? Yes. Of course I want it. But why are you suddenly so nice to me? Lu Jingli could not figure it out and tried to recall what he had just said. In the end, He came to the conclusion that the problem lay in one word: sister-in-law. Just because he called Ning Shi sister-in-law? This holiday really made him happy and sad at the same time. Young master, Dr. Qin is here. The maid's voice came from outside the study. A slender man stood beside the maid. He was dressed casually and had a gentle face. His smile was gentle, and he looked very approachable. Lu Tingxiao hung up and turned to look at the man. You're here. Have a seat. Qin Mufeng put down his bag and sat on the sofa. What's wrong? Xiao Bao isn't feeling well? You can go see for yourself. He's in the kitchen. Lu Tingxiao replied. Kitchen? Qin Mufeng raised an eyebrow and walked to the kitchen. Qin Mufeng returned after a while. Since when did Xiao Bao have a hobby of making juice? And he seems to be in a good mood. Did something happen? Something did happen during this period of time. A few days ago, I was too busy with work and didn't have time to take care of Xiao Bao. In the end, Jingli secretly brought him to a bar. Lu Tingxiao gave him a simple explanation. Qin Mufeng's expression changed as he listened. In the end, he said happily, Xiao Bao has profited from his misfortune. As I said before, Xiao Bao's current state is too desireless. If there is a driving force that can interest him, it will be of great help to his illness. Moreover, he is a living person right now. You didn't keep the girl to be Xiao Bao's nanny or tutor? Lu Tingxiao. She will be Xiao Bao's future mother. Cough, cough, cough. Qin Mufeng looked at Lu Tingxiao's expressionless face in surprise. What did you say? Are you doing this for Xiao Bao, or for yourself? Lu Tingxiao's cold expression seemed to melt. He looked out of the window and said slowly, Dr. Qin, I think your previous conclusion is correct. You like this girl? Qin Mufeng was thrilled to hear that. I told you my judgment wouldn't be wrong. How could you be asexual? Hurry up and tell me what's going on. When you see her, does your heart beat faster and your blood boil? Do you want to get close to her and have sex with her? Lu Tingxiao looked down and thought about it seriously for a while. Then he nodded. Basically. Chapter 55. He had once asked Qin Mufeng what it felt like to like someone, and Qin Mufeng had said that he would know when he met that person. At the time, he had felt that it was too abstract. It was only after he met Ningxi that he realized that it was the truth. Congratulations to you. Many asexuals will never meet such a person in their lifetime. Qin Mufeng congratulated his old friend sincerely. In addition to heterosexuality, homosexuality, and bisexuality, in this world, there is also a type of sexuality called asexual. Asexuality didn't mean that one had a physical problem, or that he was uncertain about his sexual orientation, or that he was afraid of intimacy. To put it simply, it meant that he had no interest in sex. Because of this problem, his mother had even urged Lu Jingli to drug him 5 years ago. This is double happiness. When will I attend your wedding? Qin Mufeng teased. I'm working on it. Lu Tingxiao, who had always been successful, had a rare look of uncertainty on his face. Qin Mufeng was surprised. I didn't expect it to be the current tense. I thought President Lu would be the past tense. The girl that you like is indeed not an ordinary girl. So, you came to me this time because you want me to teach you how to woo a girl? Although I'm not as experienced as second young master, I have plenty of theoretical experience. Why did everyone want to teach him how to woo a girl? Lu Tingxiao's face darkened. That's not necessary. I asked you to confirm the impact of her appearance on Xiao Bao. After the joke, Qin Mufeng got down to business. It's like this. There are two sides to every coin. Although this is a good thing, as you said, Xiao Bao smashed up the house to see her. So it depends on how you guide him. Regardless of whether you're doing it out of selfishness or not, it's the right strategy to keep her at home for the time being. Next, I suggest that you ask that girl to help you bring Xiao Bao out more often. When the time is right, you can even send him to school and let him live a normal life step by step. I've tried for 2 years and still haven't succeeded. Maybe she can. Got it. I'll try. Film City. As soon as Ningxi entered the set, the whispers stopped immediately. Everyone looked at her with a strange look. It seemed that the gossip had spread. In the corner, someone muttered in a strange tone. What? He's just a newcomer, and yet he's so late. Didn't he see that teacher Ning arrived so early? In fact, there was nothing wrong with Ningxi's arrival today. It was just that Ning Shui came too early. Mr. Ning, you and Ning Shi are in the same company. Is the gossip on the internet true? Someone even said that she slept with a lot of us for this role. That's too shameless. Does Starlight not care about this sort of unfair competition? Faced with everyone's questions, Ning Shuelua's face showed a hint of helplessness. She sighed and said, "It's all based on our own abilities. The company won't interfere." After saying that, he suddenly realized that he had said something wrong and added, "I don't mean that Junior Sister really did those things. You can't believe the rumors on the internet." However, saying this now was like trying to cover something up. Everyone was even more certain that those things were true. It wasn't until the director came over to urge everyone to hurry up and get to work that the chatter finally dispersed. The innocent expression on Ning Shuelua's face disappeared instantly. She called her assistant over and asked in a low voice, "How's the thing I asked you to do?" "Sister Shuelua, don't worry. It's done. Didn't you say that she's allergic to metal? I put metal powder in the makeup artist's powder puff when no one was paying attention. I'm sure her whole face will be ruined." Chapter 56. Today, Ningxi was going to shoot a dance scene. Different from yesterday's heavy palace dress, today's clothes were very light. She could finally take a breather. When she entered the dressing room, Ningxi was stunned. She didn't expect to see Jia Qingqing. She had thought that Jia Qingqing wouldn't come. Jia Qingqing had been rejected in the audition, so the director had invited her to play the third female role, Concubine Xian. The third female lead was also a devilish concubine, but she had fewer scenes than Ning Shi, and she was tortured badly by Ning Shi in the movie. Although her agent had helped Jia Qingqing accept the invitation, she was extremely dissatisfied. She didn't even attend the opening ceremony and even said that she was going to quit. Ning Shi guessed that she must have heard the news that the crew had received a big investment, so she came today. After all, it was a big production with 100 million yuan investment. Jia Qingqing was putting on makeup. When she saw Ning Shi in the mirror, she immediately frowned and didn't hide her disgust at all. Like Ning Shuelua, she had a rich father, so she had always been arrogant and domineering on the set and had a bad reputation. However, her water army was very good, so they whitewashed her as a straightforward person and made her the gimmick of the most beautiful woman in the entertainment circle. Therefore, Jia Qingqing hated Ning Shi, who had robbed her of her role and fame. "Hey, isn't this the most beautiful woman in the entertainment circle? You have so many rich men supporting you, but you still come to squeeze into the dressing room with us small actresses?" Jia Qingqing sneered. Ningxi sat down on a chair and began to read the script. She wasn't affected at all. She had a special characteristic. Once she was on the set, she would put all her focus on her work. No one or anything could affect her state. "Ningxi, what do you mean? Are you ignoring me?" Jia Qingqing threw the comb in her hand. Ningxi continued to read the script as if she didn't hear it at all. At this time, the makeup artist couldn't stand it anymore. She coughed and said, "Ningxi is wearing earphones. I guess she didn't hear it." Only then did Jia Qingqing see the two small white earphones in Ningxi's ears. She suddenly felt as if she had punched cotton. Bitch, who knew if she didn't hear it or did it on purpose? Of course Ningxi did it on purpose. As soon as she saw Jia Qingqing, she immediately took out the earphones and plugged them in, pretending not to hear it. In this case, as long as there was a conflict, no matter who was right or wrong, it would be no good for her. It would be much easier now. "Miss Jia, it's done. Are you satisfied with it?" The makeup artist's tone was cautious. Obviously, she knew that this person was not easy to get along with. Jia Qingqing said without even looking at her. "Regenerate." Jia Qingqing said without even looking at it. "What is it that you're not satisfied with?" the makeup artist asked. "Not satisfied at all." The makeup artist's face stiffened, but she could only remove her makeup and redo it for her. Seeing that Ningxi completely ignored her, Jia Qingqing became angrier and kept finding fault with the makeup artist. The makeup artist didn't dare to give Jia Qingqing a dirty look. She could only glare at Ningxi in the corner resentfully. She also knew that Jia Qingqing was targeting Ningxi, and she was just implicated. Jia Jie, Jia, Jia to Shi to Jia, and Jia was Ning to say, Shi, and Xia Jiali, Jia, Jia Qing, from Jia, and was, and she, yin, she. Chapter 57. When she was about to put on Ningxi's makeup, the makeup artist smashed her things and shouted coldly, "Ningxi, come here and put on your makeup." Ningxi put down the script and walked over. "Thank you." The makeup artist was about to put on her makeup reluctantly when Ningxi glanced at her makeup tools and suddenly raised her hand to stop her. "What are you doing?" Ningxi said modestly, "Sister I, can I use my own makeup? My skin is sensitive, and I might be allergic to other brands." "No, there is no such rule. Will you be responsible if the makeup is not good? Weren't you fine yesterday?" I said impatiently, as if she was a busybody. Ningxi took out a red paper bag from her bag and quietly put it on Ice Palm. "Sister I, please make an exception. After all, we rely on our looks to make a living in this line of work. I'm just in case." I pinched the thickness of the red packet, coughed softly and said reluctantly, "Okay, but if the director says there's a problem with the makeup, you'll be responsible." Of course, I won't let Sister I get into trouble. There were no eternal enemies in this industry. I felt much better after receiving the red packet. She put more effort into putting on Ningxi's makeup, and the final effect was better than yesterday. After the makeup artist left, Ningxi crossed her arms over her chest and looked up and down at the costume she was going to wear today. Then she took out a large magnet from her bag and carefully scanned the costume as if it were a security check. After that, he also went through the shoes. Fortunately, there was no problem. Ningxi put the magnet back and clicked her tongue. She thought to herself, "So unprofessional. There should be a small needle sewn into the costume so that you would feel pain everywhere, but you couldn't find the problem. There should be a small thumbtack in the soles of the shoes. You wouldn't feel it when you walked, but once you made big movements, it would definitely be painful." Compared with Ning Xuelua, who had always been protected, Ning Xuelua had seen a lot of things after struggling at the bottom of the industry for so many years. How could she not see through her little tricks? Although she couldn't check the makeup just now, Ning Xuelua knew that her skin was allergic to metal, so she would probably make a fuss about it. After Ningxi changed her costume, the dance teacher hired by the director was already waiting outside. Ningxi followed the teacher to learn the dance moves while the others were filming. When they finished filming, the director came over to check the results. "Ningxi, how's it going? I read that you've learned dance before, so I think half a day is enough. Or I can give you a few more days. It should be fine." Ningxi didn't want to be too confident. Guo Qixing looked at the dance teacher. "Mr. Zhang, what do you think?" The dance teacher chuckled. "You'll see for yourself later." "All right, let's begin." "Okay, let's start." Characters: the Emperor, Concubine Da, Concubine Xian, Concubine Xiao, Imperial Concubine, Eunuchs, etc. Recently, there had been a consort selection, and a large number of young girls had come in. The Emperor had summoned a group of beauties and favored concubines to drink and make merry in the palace. The Emperor placed all his attention on the newlyweds, and even the most favored concubine Da was neglected. Before Concubine Da, the most favored concubine was Concubine Xian. Seeing that Concubine Da was also neglected, Concubine Xian gloated, "In this harem, it's always the newcomers who laugh at the old who cry. Does she think that His Majesty's heart will be with her for the rest of his life because of her beauty? This consort wants to see how many more days she can be so proud of herself." Probably because it was Ningxi who played Concubine Da. Jia Qingqing, who was not good at acting, played Concubine Xian very well this time. The director was very satisfied. Chapter 58. Ningxi reclined on the chaise longue and drank. It was noisy around her, but she seemed to be in another world. The liquor slid down her red lips, down her slender neck, and into her tempting clothes. The scene was so beautiful that all the men on the scene couldn't take their eyes off her. The cameraman deliberately zoomed in to give her a close-up. The wind sweeps through the village in the dark rain. The sound of the 4 mountains makes the waves roll. Ningxi recited the poem drunkenly and stood up shakily. The next second, she threw the glass away and began to dance. The firewood in the stream is soft and warm. The raccoon and I don't go out. Her slender waist was like a willow branch. She bent to the bottom and then bounced up. The hazy veil danced in the wind, and her eyes were like silk, lying in a lonely village without sorrow, thinking of defending the country. She picked up the flagon on the table and drank it up. Her dazzling movements were not so much dance steps, but more like a war dance on the battlefield. In an instant, she transformed from a seductive fairy into a general on the battlefield. She was even more stunning than before. The real identity of concubine De was the female general Meng Chang'e. The Meng family had fought for the country for generations, but in the end, the whole family was killed and she was the only one left. She sneaked into the palace not only to kill the enemy, but also to overthrow the world. Not far away, the emperor didn't realize the danger at all. He was immersed in the beauty and held the glass for a long time. He was stunned. Seeing the enthusiasm and obsession in the emperor's eyes, concubine Xian and the new concubines were full of jealousy. Lying down at night, listening to the wind and the rain, the iron horse and the glacier come to my dream. The iron horse and the glacier come to my dream. The iron horse and the glacier come to my dream. Ningxi repeated the last sentence 3 times. Once in a trance, once in sorrow, and the last time. It was the resolution of the dust settling. As soon as she finished, she seductively leaned into the emperor's arms, bewitching his heart and continuing her road of revenge. At the end of the scene, the director almost forgot to cut. Cut. Very good. Guo Qixing was the first to applaud. Ningxi's dance was good and professional. The most rare thing was that she expressed what I wanted. Everyone's expression was also very good. Old Feng, you don't need to say anything. What's rare is Qingqing. Her expression just now was on point. Jia Qingqing's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. How could it not be? She was truly jealous. Feng Yiba, who played the role of the emperor, was a veteran actor. He had worked with countless beauties before. At this moment, he couldn't help but laugh. Director Guo, I was really dazed just now. I wasn't acting. I've told you that Junior sister is very capable. Ning Xueluo, who was watching from the side, also complimented her, but in reality, she was gritting her teeth so hard that they were about to break. As soon as they left, Ning Xueluo called the assistant to the side and questioned her. What's going on? It's been a whole morning, and there's no reaction at all. The assistant looked panicked. I put it in personally, and I even put some in the blush, eyeshadow, and highlights powder. Could it be that he hasn't sent it out yet? Ning Xueluo glared at her. That's impossible. If she touches these things, she will start to have red spots in half an hour. She had used this method to embarrass Ningxi at her birthday party. Then it could only be that she didn't use those cosmetics at all. The little assistant said weakly. Idiot, don't you have a backup plan and do something to her clothes? I didn't think of it at that time. Sister Xueluo, don't be angry. I won't make a mistake next time. Ning Xueluo suppressed her anger. This was just an accident. Anyway, there would be opportunities in the future. Maybe she didn't have to do it. Just now, Jia Qingqing looked at Ningxi as if she wanted to eat her up. Ha, Ningxi, do you think it's so easy to get this role? The higher you stand, the harder you fall. Chapter 59. Although Ningxi had proved her acting skills this time, her reputation had not been saved. Instead, because of her good performance, people thought she was a fox. They even thought it was not an acting skill, but her true nature. The director was worried that she would lose her composure, so he comforted her before leaving. Ningxi, don't worry. Your supporting actor will join the crew next month. The best part is yet to come. Ningxi gave a wry smile. Director, who is the supporting actor of my show? You've been hiding it from us ever since you started filming. It's fine if you don't tell the media, but can't you tell us as well? I can't. What if you spill the beans? Anyway, what I can tell you is that the supporting actor is a big shot. Guo Qixing said mysteriously. Jia Qingqing, who was passing by, heard this and muttered disdainfully, he's just a supporting actor. How can he be a big shot? Can he be as big as the best actor Zhao Xizhou? Don't you think so, Sister Xueluo? Ning Xueluo smiled and didn't speak. Apparently, she also thought that the director was exaggerating. Ningxi ignored Jia Qingqing's sarcasm and followed Guo Qixing closely. Is he handsome? You can tell me. right? The supporting actor in the script is a miraculous doctor who makes all the daughters in the capital pretend to be sick. She had a lot of intimate scenes with the supporting actor. Not only did she have to flirt with him, but she also had several sex scenes. Kissing and hugging were common, so it was inevitable that she would care about him. Of course he is handsome. You'll be satisfied. Just don't faint from excitement. Really? Director Gua, don't lie to me. I'll take it seriously. Time flew by, and it was already August. She had been living in the Lu mansion for 2 weeks. Her relationship with Xiao Bao was getting better and better, and her work in the crew was going smoothly. Ning Xuelua and Jia Qingqing had formed an alliance and played tricks every now and then. Although she saw through all of them, it was too tiring to be on guard every day. She was going to find a suitable time to get it over with once and for all. It was a little strange. She always felt that someone in the crew was secretly helping her. Several times when she missed something, she received subtle hints. Maybe someone couldn't stand Jia Qingqing's arrogant and domineering style. Ningxi didn't think much about it. At present, the thing that gave her the biggest headache was picking up a certain annoying guy at the airport tonight. Today, when she was on set, she had been reminded by that guy's continuous calls more than 10 times. After work, Ningxi made a trip back to the Lu residence. She wanted to go home to get her equipment. Lu Tingxiao was sitting on the sofa reading the newspaper. When he saw her come back, he asked in an incomparably natural tone, "You're back. There's a new hot pot restaurant that opened recently. Do you want to take Xiaobao there tonight?" It was like asking his wife. Ningxi was shocked by her own thoughts. It had only been more than half a month, but she had become so used to this way of getting along with Lu Tingxiao. The two of them brought Xiaobao along, and it really seemed like a family of 3 living together. Ningxi shook her head to get rid of those strange thoughts and said awkwardly, "I'm afraid I can't tonight. I'm going to the airport to pick someone up and will probably come back very late. Xiaobao wants to eat hot pot? Why don't you take Xiaobao to eat? If you're not here, he won't go out with me." Ahem. All right, let's go together next time. Lu Tingxiao put down the newspaper and looked at her with an unfathomable gaze. Picking up a friend? I guess so. Ningxi nodded with some difficulty. A man or a woman? Wasn't this question a little out of line? Chapter 60. It wasn't that Ningxi didn't feel Lu Tingxiao's unusual attitude towards her, but Lu Tingxiao always stopped at the right time. If she behaved too aggressively, it would seem that she was too sentimental. So Ningxi answered normally, as if she had heard a very common question. A man? Lu Tingxiao's deep eyes narrowed imperceptibly. Will you come back tonight? This question. Why is it getting more and more? Ningxi pretended not to realize the ambiguity of this question and said as if nothing had happened, "I'm not sure yet. I'll call you later. I'm running out of time. I'm going upstairs." There were bound to be many unexpected situations tonight. And what if she couldn't help but beat Jiang Mai all night? Ningxi hurriedly went upstairs and took a huge black satchel, then quickly hugged Little Bun and kissed him goodbye. Looking at the back of the girl running away, Lu Tingxiao's face instantly turned as white as snow in August. Little Bun didn't pay attention to anything outside except Ningxi, including his father. At this moment, looking at his father's depressed and gloomy expression, he lowered his head and wrote something on the cardboard, then stretched out his little finger and poked him. Feeling a little strength on his arm, Lu Tingxiao lowered his eyes and saw a question mark written on his son's cardboard. "Ask me why I'm not happy?" Lu Tingxiao raised his eyebrows, paused thoughtfully, and then said faintly, "If one day your Aunt Xiaoxi becomes someone else's, calls that person baby, kisses that person good morning, good night, goodbye, and eats hot pot with that person, and you are not even qualified to question or be angry with her, will you be happy?" Little Treasure stared blankly for a moment, and then an expression as if the heavens were falling and the earth was shattering appeared on his face. So the father finally felt a little better. Little Bun grabbed his unscrupulous father's mobile phone and complained to Aunt Xiaoxi. He sent a crying emoji to Ningxi. Ningxi, who was on the way to the airport, saw it and thought that Little Bun was sad because he couldn't eat hot pot. So she quickly found a basket of sweet words to coax Little Bun. "Oh, baby, what's wrong? Are you unhappy? Don't be sad. If you are sad, I will be sad too. I really have something to do today. I will accompany you to eat hot pot tomorrow night, okay? Moi. I love you for 10,000 years. I love my baby smile the most. Xiao Bao looked at Ning Shi's reply and immediately smiled through his tears. He even proudly handed the phone to his father. Lu Tingxiao glanced at Ning Shi's sweet words. He was hit in the heart 2 hours later at B City Airport. Although Ning Shi was prepared before coming, she was still shocked by the scene at the moment. Jiangmai, Jiangmai, Jiangmai. Hubby, look here. Hubby, I love you. Hubby, I want to bear your children. My, you're the most handsome. Coconut will always support you. My, you're the best. Coconut will protect you forever. Most of the female fans were present. She even saw several Ani fans and many male fans. All of them were screaming at the top of their lungs. All the security guards at the airport were mobilized, but they still couldn't control the situation. My wives, can you be quiet? Don't affect others. Sure. A sexy voice rang out from the crowd, and the fans immediately fell silent. Then, the crazy screams almost broke through the roof. The scene did not quiet down, but became even more explosive. Ning Shi hid behind a pillar in the distance, her face full of black lines. This bastard really wanted to kill her. If she appeared at this time to pick him up, would she be able to live through the night? Fortunately, she was prepared. Chapter 61. Ning Shi ran to the washroom behind her, pulled open a stall, and got in. She opened her huge black bag, took out her tools, and began to put on makeup. When she came out of the washroom again, Ning Shi was already a white-haired old lady. His phone rang with a text message. Ning Shi took out her cell phone and found it was from Jiang Mai. Dirty Demon King, Ning Xiaoxi. You have 5 minutes to appear in front of me, or I'll announce our relationship immediately. Shit. Ning Shi checked her makeup for the last time, and then hurried to the most crowded place. Ning Shi's expression was helpless and anxious. Ahem. Make way, make way. Ahem, my kind daughters. Can you let this old woman take a look at Ai? Don't push. There's an old lady here. Granny, why do you want to see our Mai? Are you also a fan of Mai? Oh my god. Our Mai is indeed popular among young and old. He even has milk powder. Everyone, make way for Granny. Granny, how old are you? Ning Shi bent over, patted her back, and thanked them profusely. Daughters, thank you. Thank you. I'm 80 years old. I like this young man very much because he looks like my grandson. My grandson works far away, and I only see him a few times a year. She began to wipe her tears. My, here's your granny fan. Why don't you meet her? Yes, meet her. She's so pitiful. With the enthusiastic help of her fans, Ning Shi squeezed into the crowd smoothly. In the center of the crowd, Jiang Mai combed his unruly blonde hair with his fingers, took off his sunglasses, and a trace of suspicion flashed across his handsome face. Milk powder? Yes. She's 80 years old. She specially came to the airport to see you on such a hot day. She said she likes you very much because you look like her grandson who works abroad. As soon as the fan finished speaking, Jiang Mai followed the crowd and saw an old lady with wrinkles all over her face. She was wearing gray clothes made of coarse cloth and holding a walking stick. Jiang Mai's expression became extremely distorted in an instant. He used his last bit of rationality to swallow back the word fuck. He stared at the old lady with an expression that almost wanted to strangle her alive. Of course, all of this happened in a short second, and the fans didn't notice his abnormality. Grandson, good grandson. Grandma misses you so much. Ning Shi rushed to Jiang Mai's body and caressed his Goldie with her hands. She cried so hard that her heart was broken. When the young ladies at the scene saw this heartwarming and touching scene, they all burst into tears. The sound of the camera shuddering also came one after another. Ning Xiaoxi, wait for me tonight. Jiang Mai gritted his teeth and whispered in her ear. Grandson, why did you lose weight again? Grandma's heart aches for you. Ning Shi was so engrossed in her acting that the hairstyle that Jiang Mai valued the most had been kneaded into a bird's nest. Seeing that Jiang Mai was about to explode, his agent Lei Ming hurriedly came to his rescue. Ahem, everyone, make way. This grandma is a little weak from grief. We'll be responsible for sending her home. Jiang Mai maintained a gentle and considerate expression, but secretly pinched someone's hand and quickly left the airport. Chapter 62. In the black van. My good grandson, do you know where I live? Ningxi, call me grandson one more time. Son too. So what if I do? I'll kill you. Come on. I'm afraid you won't come. Damn woman. You really hit me. The back of the car was shaking. Lei Ming, who was driving, was speechless. I told you that you couldn't beat her, but you didn't believe me. Now look at her. Tomorrow's headline will be changed from a beautiful woman to an old woman. Jiang Mai, who was pinched by Ningxi, was furious. Shut up. Lei Ming watched the battle from the rearview mirror. He was speechless and twitched the corner of his mouth. Ningxi, can you be gentle? I beg you. He has a play, an advertisement, and a magazine cover this month. I know, Brother Ming. I won't hit your face. Behave yourself. Jiang Mai was no longer as handsome and high-spirited as he was at the airport. His hands were cuffed and pressed against the car seat, as if he had just been ravaged. Ningxi, you forced me to do this. While Ningxi was beating him merrily, Jiang Mai was caught off guard. He put his cuffed hands behind her neck and pressed them down hard. Looking at the handsome face in front of her, Ningxi subconsciously leaned back with a careless smile. What? You can't beat me, so you use your honey trap? Jiang Mai suddenly turned his head away when his lips were about to touch hers. Ew, ha 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 ha. Ningxi covered her belly and rolled on the floor. Come on, kiss me. Kiss me here. Grandma, don't you think I'm beautiful today? Looking at Ningxi's wrinkled and pockmarked face, Jiang Mai lay there like a dead fish, feeling hopeless. Ningxi finally laughed enough and got up, panting. What's wrong? Are you really angry? Who told you to set me up first? Can't I take revenge? Bastard. We haven't seen each other for so long. Don't you miss me at all? How dare you beat me as soon as we meet? Jiang Mai glared at her angrily, and there was a trace of grievance in his eyes. Ningxi smiled. Of course I do. I told you at the airport that Grandma misses you so much. Jiang Mai finally gave up trying to communicate with her. He raised his handcuffed hands and said angrily, Hurry up and untie me. Where the hell did you get these handcuffs? This is a prohibited item in the country, right? Ningxi touched her chin. I think I bought it from a sex toy shop on Taobao. With a 20% discount, it's only 9 yuan. Jiang Mai, Lei Ming, worried that the two of them would start fighting again. Lei Ming quickly changed the topic. We've shaken off the reporters and fans. Where should we go now? Jiang Mai took out a small mirror to fix his hairstyle and said without looking up, Let's go back to my villa in the suburbs. Ningxi immediately straightened up, then put me down by the roadside. I'll take a taxi back myself. Heh, you still want to run away tonight? Let's see where you can run to now. Jiang Mai clenched his teeth and locked the door with a gloomy look on his face. Ningxi was speechless. She knew it would be like this. The more they drove, the more Ningxi felt something was wrong. Why did this direction feel so familiar? Tycoon Jiang, you have a property in City B? Don't tell me your mansion is at the Platinum Gold Palace? Ningxi probed. Jiang Mai snorted. Yeah, so what? It's too late to suck up to me now. Let me tell you. Unless you call me Grandpa. Ningxi was a little lost. Jiang Mai's villa was also in the Platinum Gold Palace? She didn't know why, but her brain suddenly began to beep, giving her a bad feeling. Chapter 63. After the car entered the gate, Ningxi asked casually, Jiang Mai, which villa do you live in? Number 6. Ningxi was surprised. It turned out to be number 6. Villas in the Platinum Gold rank were divided into different grades. The best one was undoubtedly number 8 Castle, where Devil Lu lived, with a large lake and garden and a private golf course behind it. It occupied the largest area. The second one was Lu Jingli's number 7 villa next door. Number 6 was the same size as number 7 villa. No one knew who the owner of number 6 villa was. It turned out to be Jiang Mai. Seeing Lei Ming was going to drive to the right, Ningxi reminded him subconsciously, "Hey, brother Ming, don't go this way. It's blocked." "How do you know it's blocked?" Jiang Mai asked immediately. Ningxi's heart skipped a beat. She rolled her eyes at him calmly. "Don't you see the warning sign?" In fact, that section of the road had been smashed by a drunk driver. She saw it with her own eyes when she passed by yesterday. Jiang Mai glanced at the warning sign saying, "Road maintenance ahead," and said, "Oh." Ningxi heaved a sigh of relief secretly. Although she had a good reason to live in Lu Tingxiao's place, it was too troublesome and difficult to explain. It was better to avoid trouble. When they arrived, Ningxi was full of resentment. She wanted to sneak home and hug Xiaobao. Lei Ming got out of the car and asked Jiang Mai, "This place is always cleaned, so you can live here. Do you want to live here or in the apartment arranged by the company? If you live here, the traffic may be a bit inconvenient." Ningxi thought, "Don't live here. What if we bump into each other?" "Let's see. We'll talk about it later." Jiang Mai waved his hand impatiently and glanced at Lei Ming. Lei Ming sighed and looked at the two of them. He said worriedly, "Don't stay up too late. Mai, don't forget you have to." I know. Jiang Mai turned a deaf ear to him and dragged Ningxi into the house like a bandit. Lei Ming. He didn't expect them to get up tomorrow morning. After entering the house, Jiang Mai counted his fingers and said, "Don't listen to brother Ming. Ning Xiaoxi, you must fight with me for 300 rounds tonight. I'll torture you to death." Ningxi glanced at him disdainfully. "Haha, come on then. A loser actually dares to spout such arrogant words. I'll make you wholeheartedly call me grandma." "Dream on. It must be you calling me grandpa." Jiang Mai buried his head and rummaged in his huge suitcase. "I brought the latest equipment from abroad. You're lucky." After saying that, he glared at her with a pitiful expression. "Hurry up and wash this body of mine. It's so painful to the eyes. Are you trying to use this move to lower my fighting strength? Shameless. If I lose, I won't admit it. I'm telling you." "Lower my ass. I should lower myself. Do you think I'll feel better just because I'm like this?" Ningxi pulled off the thick wig on her head and untied the neckline. What she was doing was harming herself while harming the enemy. Jiang Mai turned on the large-screen TV in the living room and began to connect the wires. "There are clothes in my room. You can choose one to wear yourself. Hurry up. My battle soul is hungry and thirsty." Ningxi was speechless as she looked at his excited face. Other people would look for hot girls and lovers to have sex as soon as they returned to China. But this guy dragged her to play games, and they even wanted to stay up all night. He was crazy. Chapter 64. Jiang Mai skillfully installed the game equipment, took out several bags of jelly, potato chips, and dried fish, and took out a bottle of good wine from the cellar while humming a song. When everything was ready, he sat cross-legged on the ground and was ready to test the smoothness of the game. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Jiang Mai's face immediately darkened. He didn't open the door but called Lei Ming angrily. "Stop ringing it. I promise I'll be there on time tomorrow morning. You order me around like a beast every day and don't even allow me to play games. Believe it or not, I'll quit." What are you ringing?" Lei Ming, who had been scolded for a long time, was confused. Jiang Mai choked. "Aren't you ringing my doorbell?" "I've walked a long way. I'm driving." Lei Ming said innocently. "Who could it be? Few people know I live here." Jiang Mai muttered suspiciously. Could it be that the address was leaked? "Be careful. Don't open the door. What if it's the media? Ningxi is still at your place." Lei Ming immediately became vigilant. Jiang Mai snorted and said indifferently, "If it is, then so be it. So what if I saw her?" Lei Ming said helplessly, "Mai, I don't want to criticize you, but even if you want to help her, she has to accept it first. Ningxi obviously doesn't want to be on your boat." Jiang Mai was furious. "What boat? Who are you calling a boat?" The doorbell outside the door was still ringing. It rang every 5 seconds in a very regular pattern. "I'm done talking to you. I'm going to open the door. It's so late." "Who is it?" Jiang Mai hung up the phone and walked to the living room impatiently. Jiang Mai deliberately leaned over to see who the person outside was through the electronic monitor. As a result, he was dumbfounded as if he had seen a ghost. Fuck. Lu Tingxiao. Why is he here? At the door, he saw a man in gray home clothes and a pair of slippers. He was carrying something in his hand. Although he was dressed casually, Jiang Mai somehow felt a gust of cold wind from the glacier blowing into his neck, making him shiver. Jiang Mai panicked like a rabbit that had seen a wolf. After the doorbell rang twice, he took a deep breath and opened the door. The moment he opened the door, his originally carefree attitude immediately became respectful. Why are you here? I'm looking at you, the man replied expressionlessly. Oh, please come in. Please come in. Jiang Mai hurriedly welcomed them in. Lu Tingxiao casually glanced at the game controller, snacks, and alcohol on the floor before sitting down on the sofa. Noticing Lu Tingxiao's gaze, Jiang Mai coughed and explained, Ahem, this job is too tiring. It's rare for me to relax. Lu Tingxiao did not care about this question and asked casually, when did they arrive? Just arrived not long ago. Jiang Mai searched for a long time and finally found a bag of tea, but there was no hot water, so he could only take a bottle of mineral water from the fridge. There is no water at home. Is this okay? Don't worry. I'll leave after a while, Lu Tingxiao said as he pointed to the boxes he had brought. Your mother gave them to you. You could have just sent someone to bring them to me. Why did you bother to come here in the middle of the night? Jiang Mai complained about his mother 100 times in his heart. Why did she ask him to bring them here for no reason? Didn't she know that he was most afraid of this person? All right, needless to say, his biological mother must have known about it. That's why she sent him here. Chapter 65. How long are you going to stay? Lu Tingxiao asked in the tone of an elder and boss. Jiang Mai sat up straight and answered politely, If everything goes well, I'm going to settle down in China this time. Although all the people in the film and television industry are going abroad, the domestic film and television industry has been developing very fast in recent years, and the market is very big. It's necessary to study abroad, but I don't think we should put the cart before the horse. We should focus on China. Okay. Lu Tingxiao nodded affirmatively, which was rare. Jiang Mai heaved a sigh of relief and then asked with concern, How is Xiaobao recently? Lu Tingxiao. Not bad. By the way, I brought toys for him and some small gifts for you. I was going to visit you tomorrow, but I didn't expect you to come first. Jiang Mai hurriedly took out the gifts that he had prepared in the box. Lu Tingxiao. Thank you. Then there was an awkward silence. So, at this moment, the sound of water coming from the bathroom suddenly became clear. Jiang Mai scratched his head a little awkwardly. Lu Tingxiao naturally understood what was going on. He said a few words and stood up. I'm leaving. Go back and see your mother when you have time. Okay. I'll see you out. Jiang Mai was about to see Jiang Mai out as if he had been pardoned when suddenly a furious voice came from behind. Jiang Mai, what kind of rotten clothes are you wearing? How can I wear them with such a big hole in the back? Lu Tingxiao, who had already stood up and was about to leave, paused as if his acupoints had been hit. After a second, he slowly turned around and looked in the direction where the voice came from. The girl was barefoot, her hair was wet, and her cheeks were naturally red because she had just taken a bath. She was standing at the door of the bath, exasperated. She was wearing a large men's t-shirt, which was torn on the right side of the waist, revealing her fair skin. Jiang Mai didn't notice Lu Tingxiao's expression. He just wanted to die. This girl was about to leave. Couldn't she wait for a while before coming out? I broke it when I was cycling and forgot to throw it away. There are so many clothes out there. Why did you have to pick one with a hole in it? Jiang Mai replied to Ning Shi speechlessly. Then he turned to Lu Tingxiao awkwardly and introduced, Ahem, this is my friend, Ning Shi. After saying that, Jiang Mai suddenly found that Ning Shi's expression was a little strange. He stared at Lu Tingxiao as if he had lost his soul. This wretched girl, even if Lu Tingxiao was not bad-looking, she didn't need to be this good for nothing, right? Her eyes were staring straight at him. Jiang Mai was unhappy to see Ning Shi like this. He said with a straight face, Ning Shi, this is my uncle, the president of the Lu Group, Lu Tingxiao. What are you standing there for? Call for help. At this moment, Ning Shi, whose hair was dripping with water and her hand was still clutching the torn part of her clothes, finally found her voice. With an extremely mysterious expression, she said word by word dryly, "Uncle." "Uncle?" Ning Shi's tone was like a question mark, but in Lu Tingxiao's ears, it sounded like an affirmative sentence. It seemed that Ning Shi was calling him uncle. His face instantly became like a devil who had just washed the 18 levels of hell with blood. His whole body was full of cold and terrifying aura, which made both of them tremble in fear. No one knew how long this strange atmosphere lasted. Lu Tingxiao's cold eyes fell on Ning Shi. "You said you were going to pick up Mu Yi?" Jiang Mai was stunned to hear this. "Ning Shi, do you know my uncle?" Chapter 66. Ning Shi almost went crazy. She lowered her voice and said, "I'm going to ask you, how do you know Lu Tingxiao?" Jiang Mai said, "I told you he is my uncle." Ning Shi said, "Then why didn't you tell me earlier?" Jiang Mai said, "You didn't ask." Ning Shi, "How do you know my uncle?" Jiang Mai looked back and forth between them. The more he looked, the more he felt something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. "It's a long story." Ning Shi touched her forehead wearily. She said these words to Jiang Mai and also to Lu Tingxiao. Jiang Mai had a lot of questions to ask but couldn't because of Lu Tingxiao's presence. The girl who had just finished bathing smelled good. She was wearing an empty t-shirt with a pair of white and slender legs. One of her hands was still covering the hole in her shirt. Such a scene could make one's blood boil. However, when he thought that she was in another man's house like this, Lu Tingxiao had the urge to destroy everything. Even though Lu Tingxiao's heart had been destroyed several times, it had only happened in an almost imperceptible moment. Lu Tingxiao's expression was only a little cold. He glanced at Ning Shi and said, "Are you going to stay here or go back with me?" It was a simple sentence, but it seemed to carry a great deal of pressure. Hearing this, Jiang Mai looked at Ning Shi in shock and disbelief. What did he mean? Not only did they know each other, but they also lived together. Ning Shi looked at the cold Lu Tingxiao and then at Jiang Mai, whose eyes were burning with anger. She swallowed hard and said, I'd better go back." The coldness around Lu Tingxiao suddenly subsided a little. Jiang Mai, however, went berserk. He immediately grabbed Ning Shi's wrist. His beautiful light blue eyes were full of nervousness and anger. "You promised to accompany me tonight." As soon as he said this, Ning Shi wanted to punch him into the sky. "Don't say such ambiguous words, okay, young man?" She raised her head and looked at Lu Tingxiao. Sure enough, that fellow's terrifying expression had reached the point where he could no longer suppress it. It was as if there was only one iron fence left before a wild beast would rush out. Ning Shi pulled her hand back and said patiently, "Mu Yi, I have to shoot tomorrow. Didn't Brother Ming say you have something to do tomorrow morning? When we're both free, I'll play with you again. Okay?" Ning Shi deliberately emphasized the word, play games. After saying that, he quickly picked up his big black bag and used it to cover the hole in his waist. He didn't even have time to change his clothes before he ran away from this troublesome place. Lu Tingxiao took a deep look at Jiang Mai and slowly followed Ning Shi, looking at the backs of the two leaving one after the other, and the look in Lu Tingxiao's eyes before he left. Jiang Mai's eyes were burning with anger. Damn it. No wonder the woman knew that the road was blocked so quickly. "Ning Shi, how many things are you hiding from me?" At this moment, Ning Shi was trembling with fear as she ran back. Suddenly, her hand became lighter. It turned out that Lu Tingxiao had taken the big bag from her. Then, she felt a weight on her shoulder. Lu Tingxiao took off his coat and put it on her shoulder. "Thank you." Ning Shi thanked him awkwardly. Lu Tingxiao's face was cold and he didn't respond. It would be better if he responded. As long as he responded, she would have a way to deal with it. But this was the most frightening thing. Chapter 67. In the Lu Mansion. After returning to her room and changing into her pajamas, Ning Shi ran to find Xiao Baozi at lightning speed. "Xiao Bao, I'm afraid of the dark tonight. Can I sleep with you?" Little Bun was naturally very happy and happily gave up most of the space for her. "Thank you, baby. Good night." Annie's life-saving charm. I'm counting on you tonight. What happened today was really too exciting. Her little heart was still beating very fast. She could feel that the hazy barrier between her and Lu Tingxiao had become so fragile that it would break at the slightest touch after today. If it was really revealed, she really didn't know how to deal with it. Fortunately, Xiao Bao in her arms had a superb hypnotic effect. She gradually fell asleep after half an hour. She had Xiao Bao to sleep peacefully, but someone couldn't sleep alone. Late at night, the smell of smoke in the study was so heavy that it was almost like flying clouds. Oh, no wonder Cheng Feng couldn't find out who the two people who gave Ningxi gifts on the set that day were. One of them turned out to be a traitor. Dirty Demon King. Only now did he remember that they had a family. Jiang Mai's nickname in the group was this strange name, but he had never thought of it before. As for the man who signed off with the name YS, there was no clue so far. In the dark, the man put out the cigarette butt, got up and went out. He gently pushed open the door of the guest room. There was no one inside. Lu Tingxiao frowned slightly and turned to the next room. Sure enough, Ningxi was sleeping soundly with Xiao Bao in her arms. But did she think it would be fine just like that? Lu Tingxiao walked to the small bed, gently took away Xiao Bao's little hand that was holding the corner of his clothes, and replaced it with a plush doll. Then he directly carried Ningxi away. Xiao Bao frowned in his sleep, reached out his little hand, and held the doll. After deceiving his son, Lu Tingxiao directly carried her to the master bedroom. He very gently put her on the bed, then sat on the edge of the bed and gently stroked the girl's hair, eyes, cheeks with his slightly rough fingers. Like a beast before eating, extremely patient and enjoying the moment before eating. Finally, he let out a sigh and covered those two soft lips. He moved in and out, kissing and entangling them. She was as sweet as he had imagined. Then, the side of his face, his earlobe, his neck, and finally his collarbone. In the past 32 years, he had never fallen in love with anyone, nor did he feel that love meant anything to him. To him, love was probably the most useless thing. So, even if he had no desire or love, so what? He had never thought that one day, love would sweep over him in such a turbulent way. This little girl, who was 8 years younger than him, had made him a complete stranger to himself. To him, life was no longer a cold and hard schedule and data. Instead, it was soft, longing, warm, sweet, and fulfilling. But at the same time, it was accompanied by irritability, violence, impulsiveness, and lust. When he thought of the scene when he saw her at Jiang Mai's place, the violent anger in his heart immediately leaped out of the cage. He unconsciously exerted force, and in the next second, the smell of blood permeated between their intertwined lips and teeth. The girl under him frowned, and Lu Tingxiao's back stiffened. She smacked her lips and fell back into a deep sleep. He had a carefree look on his face. Lu Tingxiao gently touched her red and swollen lips with the pad of his finger, and a spark lit up the prairie. He had an impulse to wake her up with a kiss regardless of the consequences. Chapter 68. The next morning, Ningxi woke up naturally. She had slept well last night, but something seemed wrong. Why did the tip of her tongue hurt so much? Could it be that she bit herself in her dreams? It was so cruel to bite herself. During breakfast, everything was as usual. Lu Tingxiao seemed to be starting work today. He was sitting there in a suit, drinking coffee and reading the newspaper. He looked as aloof as ever, as if nothing had happened last night. Ningxi breathed a sigh of relief. She wondered if she was being too sensitive. Lu Tingxiao might have a vague affection for her, but he shouldn't be jealous of her, right? Or was he jealous of his nephew? Lu Tingxiao's expression was normal, but Little Bun's expression was a bit strange. Little Bun had been sulking the whole morning, as if he had been robbed of something. Ningxi put a soup bun in Little Bun's bowl and asked concernedly, "Baby, what's wrong? Are you unhappy?" Little Bun glanced at his father, who acted as if nothing had happened, and looked even angrier. But when she remembered that Aunt Xiaoxi liked her smile, she tried to smile to show that she was fine. She was so angry, but she still had to keep smiling. Ningxi was relieved and quickly finished her breakfast. "I'm leaving. Take your time." The supporting actor would be joining the crew today, so it would be better for her to arrive early. She was about to take her bag and leave, when Little Bun walked up to her and tugged at the corner of her clothes. Ningxi was puzzled. What's wrong? Seeing that she didn't understand, Little Bun looked aggrieved. He looked as if he had fallen out of favor and was about to cry. Ningxi scratched her ears and cheeks for a long time, but still couldn't figure out what she had done wrong. In the end, she could only look at Lu Tingxiao for help. Lu Tingxiao glanced at her and reminded her indifferently, "You forgot to kiss him goodbye?" Oh, sorry. Ningxi patted her forehead and suddenly remembered. She didn't know how he got into this habit, but Little Bun liked it very much, so she would kiss his little face every day before she left. She was in such a hurry that she forgot it today. After kissing him again, Ningxi left. Xiaobao waved goodbye to Aunt Xiaoxi and turned to face his father. His cute little face immediately showed an extremely angry expression, as if saying, "Don't think I'll forgive you just because you helped me." Lu Tingxiao didn't seem to notice his son's angry glare. He calmly took a sip of coffee and said, "Sorry, I don't understand what you're trying to say. If you want to talk to me, say it yourself or write it down." Hearing this, Xiaobao became even angrier. Even with Ningxi's help, he could only write words, emoticons, and symbols. He had never written long sentences, let alone spoken. Finally, he angrily wrote a word on the cardboard. Thief. Lu Tingxiao glanced at the word out of the corner of his eye and pretended to be confused. Why? Your house was broken into? Xiaobao was so angry that his cheeks bulged. He buried his head and wrote a few words in Chinese. You stole Aunt Xiaoxi last night. Looking at the sentence, Lu Tingxiao was finally satisfied. He put down the newspaper, looked at his son, and asked meaningfully, "You don't want Aunt Xiaoxi to be my wife?" "Mine," Xiaobao wrote on the cardboard. Lu Tingxiao raised his eyebrows. "Unfortunately, you two are not a good match. You are 19 years younger than her. Do you want her to wait so many years for you to grow up?" Xiaobao buried himself in the drawing and drew a broken egg. Looking at the lifelike bat egg, Lu Tingxiao smiled. "But what I said is the truth, isn't it?" Then he paused and said in a very bewitching tone, "But if she becomes my wife, it will be different. She will become your mother." Mother. Hearing this word, Xiaobao froze for a moment and buried his head in silence. His little face seemed to be struggling and wavering. Chapter 69. Today's crew was the same as usual. There were no changes just because of the second male lead. Zhao Xizhou was surrounded by a group of girls who were listening to him talk about his glorious history in the entertainment industry. Jia Qingqing's relationship with Ning Shuelua was getting better and better. She was excitedly talking about the diamond bracelet that her father had just bought for her. Only Ningxi was looking forward to it. After all, she had too many scenes with the second male lead, and the quality of the second male lead would affect her greatly. Jia Qingqing fiddled with the sparkling diamond bracelet on her wrist and said disdainfully, "Sister Shuelua, look at how she's waiting for a man." She even took the director's words seriously. Does she think she can wait until Panin comes out? Ning Shuelua looked helpless and said, "Don't pick on Ningxi. She has the most scenes with the second male lead, so it's normal for her to pay more attention to it than us." Haha, there are quite a lot of kissing scenes and sex scenes. Luckily, I didn't take the role back then. Otherwise, I would have been taken advantage of. Jia Qingqing said happily, and then looked at Ning Shuelua enviously. Sister Shuelua, you're the best. Your boyfriend is so handsome, and so is your partner. Just then, Director Guo Qixing's excited voice came from the entrance of the set. Come, everyone. Our second male lead, the actor who plays Sun Huanqing, is here. Everyone, come over and say hello. The response from the crew was sparse. Zhao Xizhou had no intention of getting up and the girls were still surrounding him, fighting to get him to read their palms. Jia Qingqing snorted disdainfully and didn't even look outside. Ning Shuelua touched up her makeup and stood up to persuade her. Let's go and say hello. After all, we're colleagues. Jia Qingqing then followed her out of the break room reluctantly. Ningxi naturally flew over immediately. She was looking out when she felt as if she had been struck by lightning from the ninth heaven. The guy next to the director was that eye-catching golden hair. Even if she wanted to lie to her eyes and say that she saw wrongly, it was impossible. Why was the second male lead that guy? This can't be real. At the entrance, Xiaoli, the stage supervisor, suddenly screamed. Jia Qingqing frowned. Are you crazy? What are you yelling about? Right after he said that, he saw the man behind the director from the corner of his eyes. She let out a scream as well. What's wrong? Ning Xueluo asked. Jiang Mai. Sister Xueluo. It's Jiang Mai. Jia Qingqing pinched Ning Xueluo's arm in excitement. What? Ning Xueluo followed her gaze. The director chuckled as he walked in front of Lin Yiqian. Beside him was a blond man dressed in a very trendy t-shirt and shorts. With one hand in his pocket, he wore an arrogant and mischievous expression that was unique to him. When he smiled at Lin Yiqian, he revealed his cute canine teeth. Jiang Mai. The second male lead was actually Jiang Mai. Even Ning Xueluo was shocked by the result. At this moment, the young girls who had been surrounding Zhao Xizhou had already rushed to the door like a pack of hungry wolves. Oi, Jiang Mai. Was it really Jiang Mai? Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Quick, pinch me. Oh my God. As expected of a walking aphrodisiac, he was simply too handsome. He was so handsome that my legs turned to jelly. I heard that Jiang Mai even has milk powder. He didn't even let an 80-year-old lady go. Don't stop me. It's not easy to see the real person. I'm going to sleep with him. If I can't sleep with Jiang Mai, I'm no different from a salted fish. Chapter 70. Who was the most popular young male idol in the entertainment circle? No matter who you are, they will tell you this name, Jiang Mai. Jia Qingqing still couldn't accept this fact. She walked back and forth angrily. Is there something wrong? Isn't Jiang Mai filming abroad? Even if he's back, how could he play a supporting role? Ning Xueluo pondered. It's said that Jiang Mai won't play any role other than the male lead. Besides, the main investor of this show is Starlight. Why would an actor from Shengshi act in it? Jia Qingqing, who was just glad that she didn't have to be taken advantage of, was about to go crazy. Damn it! Why is it like this? Why is Ningxi so lucky? Jiang Mai should be mine. He's mine. It's all her fault for snatching my role. The onlookers looked at Jia Qingqing sympathetically. They weren't surprised that she was going crazy. Everyone in the entertainment circle knew that Jia Qingqing liked Jiang Mai and had publicly confessed her love for him on Weibo. Although Jiang Mai didn't respond to her, she often reposted messages related to Jiang Mai on Weibo like a crazy fan. Guo Qixing spent a lot of effort to calm the crazy girls down. He couldn't help but tease. Mai, look at how much you've charmed the girls in our crew. Handsome guys are always treated well. Jiang Mai followed the director's words and joked, Director, didn't you hear that? They just want to sleep with me, so you must protect me. Ha ha ha. It's okay. Your CP is Ming Chang'e, the god of war. She will protect you. Oh, by the way, where's Ningxi? She kept asking me who her supporting role was. Where is she now? Guo Qixing looked for her everywhere. Jiang Mai curled up the corner of his mouth with a faint smile. Don't tell me I scared him away. It's possible. Almost all the girls in the country are your fans. Maybe Ningxi is too. Maybe she was frightened by seeing her idol. Guo Qixing laughed. While they were talking, Ningxi came over. In a short time, Ningxi's expression was impeccable. She smiled and reached out to the person opposite her. Hello, Senior Jiang. I'm Ningxi. It's an honor to work with you. Although Ningxi and Jiang Mai were the same age, Jiang Mai had entered the industry earlier than her. He was her senior, so she should be more respectful to him. Hello. Jiang Mai smiled and reached out to shake her hand gently. But the next second, he almost threw her hand away. This wretched lass was about to crush his bones into pieces. Jiang Mai forced himself to maintain a handsome expression and suddenly pretended to be enlightened. Ningxi, it's you. What? You know each other? Guo Qixing was surprised. Not only the director, but everyone in the crew was also looking at Jiang Mai. Jiang Mai smiled meaningfully. Of course. Hearing his suggestive tone and seeing everyone staring at her with strange eyes, Ningxi was so angry that her hands began to tremble. She almost couldn't restrain the primitive force in her body to beat him up. Seeing that Ningxi's face had turned pale, Jiang Mai finally said slowly, "We worked together when we were filming Bluebird." "Oh? Why didn't Ningxi mention it?" Guo Qixing was surprised. Ningxi felt as if she had just escaped from death. Her back was wet with sweat. She replied modestly, "Director Guo, I was just a stunt double for the female lead. It's good that Senior Jiang still remembers me." Guo Qixing was amused. "Oh, I didn't expect you two to have such a fate. That's great. Since you've worked together before and know each other, there shouldn't be too much practice. Let's have an intense scene today, shall we?" Ningxi, an intense scene? An intense scene? Director, no way. They weren't familiar with each other. Jiang Mai smiled happily. Okay. Ningxi really wanted to reach out and pull out those evil little canine teeth. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.